So I made something. Okay, I made many somethings. You know when you get one of those creative explosions, you do something and it works really good, and so it just totally motivates the hell out of you and you can't stop? Yeah, welcome to my life for the past 3 days. So, however, there is one important thing that I wanted to complete, and it got done, okay? And it began when this all started because it was part of the process to begin with. Those of you who have been with me since the beginning of the original drop of my oracle related to the sanctum, the key and so forth, the vortex, the algorithm, the story. It's a 3-part system, right? There's the lower world, the upper world, and then that middle key that sort of unlocks that whole process, right? And so every 2 has a third. And the first oracle that I put together, which I am just so enamored by, it came out so beautiful, was the female version. This was the divine feminine. And what it was designed to do was to emulate the system of the tarot and emulate the system of the I Ching and various other divinatory systems, based on its mathematics, the elemental system, the 5-fold symmetry, 6-fold symmetry, and so forth. And it was very effective in doing that. But what it really was designed to do was to be the feminine voice, the divine feminine, with respect to our creation and our story and so forth. Which obviously then begged for the mate, right? The masculine version, which was born a day later. And it is a beautiful example of this complementary opposite. They're both very different, but identical in mathematics. And that's really the beautiful thing, that the system, regardless of which one you look at, works. All of the parts are there. It contains the system for the elements. It contains the system for the suits, the court cards, and thus you can derive the small cards. It's all there. It's really great. Can easily be used for deriving trigrams and hexagrams, and looking at the elemental system with respect to things like Enochian, or applying the idea of the elemental system to the planets, right? And so it can even kind of give you a little bit of a glimpse into astrology. But now, that wasn't enough for me. I wanted it to be direct, exact, perfect. And so obviously the answer to that is the algorithm. Every 2 has a third, and so I had to complete it with this final piece, right? And now I did show a little bit of it yesterday, but it wasn't done. I didn't have all the beads I needed. I had to go through a couple of other boxes, a few other different doodads, and looking through some things, and I finally came to the complete package. And what's in here, what's in this green bag here, is the union of these 2 realized, and it contains the 3 mother letter elements, the 7 planets, the 12 signs, 36 small cards. It includes a binary calculator for the purposes of deriving digits for a specific small card. Also for changing lines, and for deriving any other 64-bit math that's related to the hexagrams. It's complete. This one thing can be used for the totality of tarot and I Ching, but it also is a complete Kabbalistic system unlocking the Tree of Life, including all of the Sephiroth and the paths, and the different worlds within there through that process. As you scry up the different worlds of the tree, they're all represented in here as well. And it's just a very beautiful, elegant interpretation, a holographic version of the upper world represented in these stones. And I just want to reiterate and really drive home the power of this this oracle compared to, say, some other tools, is that once it's laid out in the tray, you're looking at the totality of the possibility. You don't need to shuffle any additional cards or make room on the desk for more room, for more cards, for more room, for more cards. It's all right there in front of you, and you can move it, shake it, see how it interacts without having to do anything more than just examine this space in front of you. All of the elements are there. Wait till you see what I used for the planets. They're beautiful. They're just gorgeous. It doesn't hurt that it follows the mathematics, and so that you can guarantee that you're going to have a system that follows the rules that we're used to. Those of us who have used these tools and we rely upon it because it's a vocabulary we've come to trust, we need to make sure that if we enter another type of system into our world, that it follows those rules, that it speaks that language, so that there's an instant openness, there's an instant conversation. And so in this case, that's there. The math is there. If you're a tarot person, you're going to see it. If you're a Kabbalah person, you're going to see it. Ceremonial magician, you're going to see it. There's all kinds of good stuff here for anybody who has explored the divinatory process using bibliomancy, cartomancy, on very, very similar systems. Now, there's a few other uses for this that I found as well, and we're going to explore a couple of those today, specifically how to look at this from an astrological perspective and also as a meditative tool by allowing yourself to speak the language you already know. The idea of positive and negative, the idea of changing from one to the other, the idea of speaking and listening, right? Water and fire. These are very basic concepts, and they're present in a very easy to see, intuitive way that you can simply, at a glance, here's the one I put together for children. I mean, there's nothing more simple than that, right? And it's all there. Okay, and just very simply at a glance, you can see the overall connections of where these energies lie. There's the clump of will separate from the ability to listen. The speaking is next to the manifestation. So all of the things that are being spoken are related to things that want to be made. Right? And what it is that you want to be heard are the things that you are attempting to enroll the world in to assist you in making those things real. Right? And so the language is very intuitive, just from a very basic, simple, elemental kind of language. But to take it to the next level and to add some additional correspondence really unlocks an entire vocabulary that is nothing short of the key to virtually any system in the human experience. So anything we can take in with our senses. It's ultimately anything we can take in with our senses and process can be unlocked using the system, right? And so the first thing that we're going to look at is the idea of the main energy, and then how that got separated into these two genders and how those manifest. And so we're going to look at the story unfolding, and then as the story unfolds, you'll see these different elements come into being one at a time. And as that builds, the picture becomes very clear. And so once you've seen the story told once, and you have it in your mind, this visual representation of this unfolding, as you approach this later in a mixed up state, you can see all of those pieces because you remember the story. And so as an example, this is one I put together. This is actually a new oracle. It's complete in its entirety, but I'm not showing you the broken down version. I'm only going to show you the complete version. Okay, and so the stripped down version is a slightly different playing out, as you may have seen in yesterday's example. So what you're looking at here just looks like a beautiful assemblage of just gems of visual cues, but there's no rhyme or reason to the story, right? And so why I show you this is that right now it just looks like a beautiful pile of color. And if you don't know the story, then that's all you're going to see, right? It's just chaos, jumbles. Now, you can see maybe some symbols in there, right? Okay, so I see some stars. Okay, there's a wing, right? And maybe I can figure out in my symbolism what that wing means. We've got a lot of blue kind of stones and green. These are very pretty. I like these. They're metal, and they have these gorgeous little gems on the side. A bunch of different colors in here. I tried to pick a nice range when I was going through the male and the female version. And so you'll see what we've got here is basically two separate sets like these. Totally different style, though, right? Totally different visual style. And this is the completed version with the child all together. So this is it just in a pile. And since you don't know the story, there's very little context for you to draw what the meaning might be of this particular oracle, right? Every oracle is a very personal, very intimate language that only you and the person that helped you build it will really have an understanding of. unless you choose to tell that story. And once you share it, then it'll be unlocked for them as well. And that person will be able to come to your oracle knowing your story and be able to use it. Use it to figure out what they want to eat for dinner. Use it to figure out what they should look forward to in the next week. Use it to look into the past and get an idea of what they were really thinking that time they made that ridiculous decision that changed the rest of their lives. It's really a beautiful tool and is a lot of fun. So this one I'm going to put aside for now. And I'm going to be bringing it out again tomorrow in pieces and then tell you the story. And then we're going to look at this again and suddenly it's going to make sense. And that's an important lesson because that's the way that we should approach our learning, especially when it comes to our spiritual learning. Because ultimately, what is the goal of our spiritual learning but to learn ourselves, to learn the truth? And is there anything more important? I don't think so. Especially when all you have to do is be open to meditating on some beads, and it will come to you. That's the beauty, and it actually works. It actually does work. Okay. Give me a sec, guys. Actually, I'll be right back. I just want to check on something and make sure that I'm set for something that's coming up here in a minute. Okay, so I'll be right back. Give me just a sec, guys. Alrighty. I was actually wondering what people are going to be doing tonight for Halloween. I had my Halloween here last night. And so I assumed that it would be a very quiet stream. And so if that is the case, Brianna, how's it going? So here's two people that I know are celebrated Halloween with me last night. Otherwise, you'd be out somewhere right now. Wondering if you tucked that cash in your sock for the cab. Always put cash in the sock for the cab. But yeah, so thank you for joining me. Happy Halloween. Did you guys have fun last night? I had a blast. I think, when I look back over the years and over this particular period of time now, these couple of months that I started back up, that was probably the most fun I had. It was really just a ton of joy, a bunch of little gems that were just really, really good. A lot of sharing. It was just great. It was a great time. And it also gave me an opportunity and permission to dress up, even though I wasn't going out, which is very cool. I heard there's a new place in the village. I live in a very small town in upstate New York, and we have a beautiful little village. It's the kind of thing you see on postcards. A new restaurant opened up, and guess what they do over there on one night a week? They do karaoke. That's right. So I'm going to finally, maybe, I don't know, get out of the house and sing in front of a bunch of strangers. Because why not? If you're going to sing, do it loud and do it in front of a bunch of people you've never met. That's the way to do it. I tell you what. So, I made something. And it's adorable. It really is. This particular process here has just been such a joy. A lot of the tools that I'm revealing on the channel are things that I've used over and over and over again personally, and have very rarely, if ever, shared with other people, and not for any particular reason other than it's just something I've used, and I guess I'm lazy. But all kidding aside, it was time. There was something in me that got kind of motivated to finally share some of these techniques, share some of the tools, how they were derived and how they're used and how they can be applied to your own work. to maybe tie up some loose ends, add some puzzle pieces, and make the process easier, or at least add to it, right? And so I guarantee you that'll happen if you access this oracle with an open mind. And if you are a tarot reader with experience, if you're at a intermediate to high level, you're going to love this. Wait till you see the math in this little bad boy. I mean, there's a binary calculator. There's a binary calculator. There it is. I'm not kidding. It's a blast. And in here is the entirety of the tarot. The three letters, the 7 planets, the 12 signs, the 36 small cards. It's all there. And it's a beautiful amalgamation. Because yesterday, in order to demonstrate it, I put together a mock baby. It wasn't the real one because it was kind of like I didn't have all the components that I needed, and so I had to settle. And, I'm able to do that, but it's not my favorite thing. When you spend your years studying the art of, imposing your will upon the universe, you get used to getting what you want, especially from inanimate objects. And so I was very frustrated that I couldn't find the ones I needed because I knew they were here. I told them to be here, and they listened. But it took me a day to find them. So they were in another box. I got to the box, and I found all kinds of goodies. Some really interesting stuff. Every time I go digging for one thing, I find all kinds of other one things that I thought, wow, I'm glad I found that thing. A few of them, for instance, I found a big old bag of these. That's going to come in handy. These metal, I found a huge couple bags of my wings, right? These are just little doodads for earrings, or at least like little castings and findings. Really, really good stuff. But that said, I also came across just an entire set of some beads that I had completely forgotten about. They're in this kind of range. Right, there's a wide opening so that we can get multiple kind of larger threads in there, whether it may be like a leather strap or something else. That's what these are for. They're really, really adorable. This is my fire. Right. And then a decent set of these types here I bumped into, which have a unique patterns and gem colors, but very similar in size and material. They're all metal, just with slightly different styling on the actual bead itself, right? So here's a purple one, and here's and they're just really neat. And again, an entire couple of bags full of these, which are just hundreds. Just awesome. That's going to come in handy. There's a reason that suddenly I came across, hundreds of these little wings. Something tells me those are going to become useful. And they've been tucked away for years. Years and years and years and years. They've been within 15 feet of my person for probably 7 years. And I just didn't have use for them. And without a use, they just kind of went unused. Until now. So there are a couple other things that I had put together. You guys saw this. This is great. I can't get enough of this tool. If you are a parent who wants to teach their children intuition and understanding the idea of this stretching that temporal bubble to look a little bit into the past and future and see it as if it's now, this is the way to do that. This is fun. I've mentioned it a couple of times. I've done this in my life. If you've ever worked with stones from a practical level, like I used to be a lapidarist, and I'd make little jewelry, and I'd cut stone, polish, make cabochons. It was fun. It's important to go through the process. If you're going to get to know the stones from a magical level, you have to know them from every angle. And that was my pentacle phase of learning the body of the stones. How do they react? How do they act? How do they look together? How do you polish them? Some stones can only be polished by other stones. Some can only be polished with ultrasonic. It's an interesting thing going through that process. But you always wind up with chips and doodads at the end. And so what I did is I just took a bunch of that type of thing and threw them in a box. Because there's something very satisfying about just kind of... Just listen to that. Right? It's almost like a pleasant Zen kind of feeling. There's no violence to it. There's no harshness. It's just sort of like it's the idea of physically feeling the sensation of change and you recognizing that you're the agent of that. And so it's sort of just like the ritual dance of the universe, of us making change in the world with our will. Just put your finger in there and move it around. That's it. What are you doing? Kicking around the dust, moving around the planets, telling the stars to go this way and that way, and they listen. Right? And so this is nothing more than a meditative tool. However, it could be read if you wanted, because we know the elemental language. Just close your eyes and pick one. Okay, we have earth. Air. We have the earthy part of air, so that's the Princess of Sword. Very cool. Someone wants to speak their will, but wants it physically manifested. They want what they want to be known. They don't just want it, they want it to be known what they want. They want to tell people what they want. And they want those people to hear it. Right? So there you go. It's 2 little beads and you actually have some knowledge. And it's just a box of color, right? It's a box of color. Love that. Really, really pretty beads I bumped into today. Look at this. I love these little pipets and the contrast. That black and white kind of contrast. You're going to see that later elsewhere. It came in handy as a pentacle. And the purpose of this is to just point out that, the system is just a word. It's just a word. It's just a vocabulary. We have to kind of realize, what is it that we're trying to read? What does that vocabulary give us access to? If you learn the language of English, it unlocks all books that have that language. Books that you can't read unless you speak English, right? Once you unlock the language of mathematics, it unlocks measurement, comparison, ratio, finance, prediction, to a certain degree, to statistical analysis. Mathematics is, that's a biggie. That's a language you want to learn. How about the language of body language? What is the intent of the person speaking to me right now? Are they here to help or hurt me? Are they genuine or are they being dishonest, right? The language of body is an important one, and we all read it to a certain degree intuitively, but if we take our steps to actually become fluent, we can use it as a tool. And we can also use it to interrogate the universe in the same way. What is the body language of the universe? That's right, the universe is dancing and moving, and so we can read it the same way we can a human being. Those little micro-expressions in the eyes when somebody's in a certain state, the universe has micro-expressions. Why not? It's as easy as looking in the mirror. And just to be clear, what we're doing here and how this works is that it's the story being told. And once you've seen it told, you can see it in the future elsewhere. And so let's tell the story. And it's quite simple. You already know it. And we're going to start with the divine feminine side of that story. This is so pretty. I can't get enough of it. And now, the way I kind of pictured putting it together, this is going to be my kit, and I'm going to keep it and use it as my own oracle. And also as a demonstration for people who may want to see how it works, and when I'm teaching people how to use it. Something tells me that there's going to be a chunk of people out there that think this is pretty cool and are going to want to use it. And they're going to make one, and then they're going to want to learn how to use it. And so I think training is going to be an important thing for people who take the step of making one, or for those people that just want one and don't want to make one, but contact me. We'll make one together. Either way, you're going to have it, and you're going to want to be able to use it. And the way that you're going to be able to use it is with a quick little training of the different methods. There's several ways to approach it. And it all starts, regardless, with knowing the story. So once you know the story, it's already half unlocked to you. Okay, so let's just go through that exercise now and go from there. So I have them all in their own individual little pouches. This is the Divine Feminine. Okay, and I have her in her dish. This is her brass dish. Isn't that a great dish? I love that. Just lovely. And so she's just kind of rests in there until it's her time to come out and play her part in the role of the creation of you. And I love the teak. How great is that? Because it has that warm kind of orange, and it contrasts just so nicely with the brass to show that it's a different entity. And, you know, there's all his components are in there as well, right? And then finally, in the box, on the bottom are these beads that are used for the binary process, which I'll talk about, but just, you know, there's masculine, feminine, that's it. The two, these are the feminine, the masculine are the brown, or the black beads, and then as far as these, you have these white that are the feminine, and these greens that are the masculine. If you pick a boy, it's a 1. You pick a girl, it's a 0, and you just go up the string in binary, bang, you've got a digit. You need 4 beads to get any number between 1 and 10. That's it. Pick 4 beads, you're good to go. Yeah, that's 144. You rock. It's very pretty. It's very deco. Very art deco. It also has a teardrop vibe, which I like a lot, right? That pretty, the teardrop. Which is why it's the feminine one. Here's the boy. There they are together. Right, this is the... So if I pick that first, that's a 0. And if I pick that, that's a 1. So this would be a 2 in binary. And if I grab another one, that's another 1. So this would be... so that would be 1, 2, 4. Right, so this is a 6. And that's... The last digit is a 0. So this is 0, 1, 1, 0. Each digit going up equals 1, 2, 4, 8, right? So in the 1's place, we have a 0. In the 2's place, we have a 1, so that equals 2. In the 3's place, we have a 1, so that equals 4, so this equals 6. This is 6. Now, if I were then to use that and to grab 2 beads for a suit, they'd be the 6 of that suit, right? Yeah, I went a little crazy tonight. I went a little warlock on everybody. But yeah, no, so, yeah, the planets, the signs, right? And this is the 3. This is the algorithm. You know, every 2 has a third. And that we're ultimately all in the middle. All the poles are is just the idea of what the extremes. What's the length of the range? Well, the range down is the negative and the range up is the positive. But do they even count if it's infinite? Right, no. So all that there is the middle. The pillars are there to fool us. Right? But yeah, I just decided I'd stick them all on tonight. And I never know when I'm going to need a ring to hold a ball from rolling off my desk. Right? And so I have several that I use for that purpose. This is handy for that. Right, so I don't actually wear it for any purpose other than that. I'm having trouble with losing balls rolling off my desk. I use this for that. This is that mood ring peace sign, but which actually I don't know if it works because it's always black, unless it's saying something. But let's see, what else do I guess those are the only ones I use for that. And sometimes I'll take this off and use it. For something larger, like you can set a pretty decent sized sphere on top of this as like a sphere stand. Although I don't have any spheres, I'm fresh out of spheres. I have a weird habit when I'm making magical items for people to take things that are super important to me and give them away. So all out of spheres. But now, so it's going to essentially come as a kit, which would include the completed story. With the full tarot built in, like this is it, and there's even 40 small cards in there. I mean, it's all there. And these 2 separately with the dishes, the big tray, which is very important, and then the most important component, the empty Christmas ornament. Because once you have these 2 put together in here, and then you have the baby in the tray, then you have the actual truth. You have the upper world unified masculine and feminine, which is the truth, and the upper world in your hand that you can manipulate in your hand. And then in front of you is the tray, which is the space, the universe, the 7 planets, the 12 signs. In front of you, interplaying with the deacons. Wait till you see it. It's amazing. It's gorgeous. It's you. It's me. It is our dance. Give into the dance. So here's the deal. The girl is named Pearls of Wisdom, the stones of... No. Pearls of Wisdom. Stones of our... the story... Our story in stones. Pearls of Wisdom, our story in stones. Yes. Okay. The boy is named... The Rock of Truth. Stones of Sincerity. The completed dance version of these two together in the tray and in here is called Souls Collide, Give Into the Dance. And then the final, this here, is called The Dancer. The Dancer. Okay. And so I don't know what to call the whole thing. But these are components. Some people may just want to make this or buy that. Some people may just want to make or buy that. Some people may want just the whole kit, like the whole completed thing, like as a tarot kit, with the binary calculator, and some people may want the whole thing. I don't know. So I'm not sure what to call it. And so I just wanted to put that out. And if anybody has any ideas on what you think might be a cool name for the entire thing, for the whole story, for the epic, for the unfolding, like whatever it's called, that would be awesome, and it would be a cool kind of like crowdsourced like name for this, because it's not just a divinatory tool. It can be used for meditation in a ridiculous manner, and when you do it, especially for astrology, holy crap! Wait till you see with the beads I chose for the 7 planets. Psh, Missy, you're gonna be your brain is gonna explode from inspiration. You're going to be like, oh my God, I have to do this right now. And so wait till you start figuring out which planet, like beads. Oh, so much fun. And then you get to use it. Like, okay, you have your little pouch with all your stuff. You pull out your 7 planets and you throw them in there. And guess what? You're looking at the planets. And now visually, you don't have to draw the lines. Visually in your head, draw the houses. And you're looking at the houses and planets. I mean, did it click how powerful this thing is? No joke. What's it going to be next week? Shake it up. So awesome. You want to introduce signs? Put the signs in. You want to introduce the mother letters? Put them in there. Throw in the deacons, whatever the case. Get a full interplay of what's going on from an astrological perspective in this tray using these beads. It's all there. It's amazing. So let's talk about the story here. We'll start with her story, since this is all of it is her story. Okay. Isn't that delicious? I can't stop looking at it. And the really beautiful part is that it's a complete accident. The only reason it looks like this is these are the beads I found. Obviously I did care about the color, and that mattered. So I went looking for certain colors related to the cup, the wand, the sword, the pentacle. And that mattered. And I just happened to have 5 of these left. I only had 5 of these left. I mean, how great. Because that's exactly the number I needed. And I needed 6 of each of the others, and I just happened to have exactly what I needed. How great is that? And so, each one of these can be looked at in a couple of different ways. The 5 beads represent the kind of the spiritual elements: fire, water, air, earth, and then spirit at the top. And it can be used very much in the same way as pentacle magic with respect to the Kabbalistic tree of life or the rose cross. or the magic of the high magician in the Hermetic arts, with the banishing ritual of the pentagram and these other pentagram magics. By tracing the pentacle when placing the beads, right, and put them in their appropriate order. So if you're using an air invocation, you would want to invoke from air, so you would start from air. If you're evoking, you would land on air, right? So if you're going to start from air, at the advice of Milo DuQuette, do not ever profane the genitals of the pentagram, meaning that don't ever go down first. So if you're tracing the air pentacle, you're not going to go down first, okay? And so instead, you're going to go up first. All right, so you're going to go up, down, and then across, and so forth. So you would draw it from here instead of crossing down. You're always going to go across there and then, draw it this way. And then you would go the opposite direction if you were invoking. And so it's depending upon it, do you want it coming or going. But the point, though, is that, and the way that would be done rather than tracing in the air, which is usually what's done in an actual temple environment, you would place the beads. And so you take the beads out, and with each one, do your typical elemental calling and whatever else you do for the specific elemental calls for each bead individually. And so this would be the spirit bead, and then you would place that bead at its appropriate place for the working. Whether you would start at the air center and then now just draw the pentacle, right? And it would have to be, obviously in the direction that's relevant to whatever work that you're doing. In this particular case, I'm going to be landing on Earth for physical manifestation, starting from air, the communication of the will being manifest physically. And so that's a working of doing just that. Communicating what you want to make. That's the work I want to do tonight. That's the spell that I put out there, right? Now, that's very basic low magic. What I just did is not a ceremonial magical act. Any ritual magician would look and say, man, you got there, but obviously I didn't do the calls, and that was not correct. I wasn't in the directions. None of it was correct, but it worked. And it worked because high magic is powerful stuff. And the fact is in my mind, I know the elemental directions, and I know that within my vocabulary, that was a correct pentagram for doing that invocation. The prayer happened. And so now what we're looking at here are the four elements, in the red being the wand, the blue being the cup. How beautiful. It's a bell and it speaks. I love that. A speaking cup. There's something there. We have here the sword. These little metal beads, which are great because they're a great contrast against the pinks and the blues. And then finally the green is her pentacle. Okay? Which makes a lot of sense. And of course, I've gone over a couple of different ways to read this. Tanamera, how's it going? Thank you for popping in. You can either read it as it stands by looking at, again, the elemental pentagram. So the top one would be the spirit center of that person. And so you would read around that, and that would be what's related to that person's spirit. Okay, this is the air. This is water. This is fire. And this is earth. And now, Michael, how come they're all the same? Well, because in the higher world, there is no distinction. They all have the same form in the higher world. There is a separation beginning to occur because they did separate in gender already. That's why she's female. The only reason she's female is because the separation has begun. But the separation hasn't actually fallen through the descent enough for these elements to take on differential color. They have the same color, just a different meaning to her. So they begin to take on separation, and that's why they're 5 different spheres instead of 1, but they haven't taken on an identity yet. We're not going to see that until the baby, when physical manifestation happens after the great work. So in this case, we have our tarot. Same process here as well. Once we've read it as a divinatory tool, we may want to now employ the quartz or the deacons or any other tarot cards, the signs or the majors. And we have that capacity here by applying a different technique. So first we do our pentacle or a pentagram, and we read around that person's world and say, here's what's going on in their heart. Here's what's going on in their mind. Here's what's going on in their will. Here's what's going on in their body, and then their spirit. And then you can give it another shuffle, read it if you'd like, or when you're satisfied, we can go to the next step. You take out your 3 letters, set them aside, remove your major elements, put one back for spirit. And these are the witnesses. Okay, let me get my ring. See the ring? That's why these are handy. I'm going to keep these present in the work, so they're going to actually be here to physically witness the work. Okay, just give it a quick stir, and while you're stirring, twisting, whatever the case may be, keep your mind at kind of where you are. And what I mean by that is that the goal of this particular oracle is to communicate with divine feminine, period, full stop. That's all it does. So you're going to get the answer from her perspective, right? Which is you. It's your higher feminine. And so remember where you are when you're reading this, which is inside of her. Okay? And so any voice you hear is going to come from her. Any visions are going to come from her. And so just be aware of that as you're going through this. And the first thing you're going to do is just pick 2 beads. Just very intuitively. Don't rush it. We have a wand. Okay. So right away we have a knight energy or a king. But forget that. We have fire. That's what we have. We have fire. Will. The will to will. This is the king of wand. The will to will. The desire to want. And that want be had. The desire to have. The will just is nothing. It's undefined. It's just drive. It's just power. It's the desire for you to be known and heard and want and be had. And it doesn't matter where it comes from. It's more the idea of attention. Know me. I don't care if you look at me. I don't care if you hear me. I don't care if you know what. And hear that. The will has the desire to of attention. And it has a it's directionless. It's once we begin to employ the sword is when it gives it direction. The sword is the will activated, utilized, realized, thought through, planned, executed. Right? Mind. So you get the sense here. Now, I've mentioned it before, and so I won't go through the full exercise today, but you could use the decadent wheel, grab any of the cards that you feel are relevant to the reading, or all of them, by finding the appropriate decadent. In this case, it'd be the Knight of Wand, which the Knight of Wand is going to be the top right section there. And that pulls out all kinds of deacons, the 8 and 9 of Wand, the 7 of Cup, Death, Art or Temperance, the Princess of Cup and the Ace of Cups. And all of those cards are part of that spread, just from those 2 beads. And so you pull your cards, you lay them out, you tell the story, put the cards away, and now get your witnesses back and reassemble her. Okay. Now what's occurred here is that this is the moment of your self-awareness as a being. This is the moment that God became aware of itself and looked out. And the moment that that happened, just by virtue of the fact that that desire was singular, the will existed and all it wanted was attention. It was just a state of inhale. And in that moment gave birth to the other. I love this so much. It's almost like Zen to me. Like, seriously. Just something about the color. And wait till you see the baby. I can't. I'm so excited to show you guys the baby. It's complete, and it took 2 days, but it's done. This is the 3-part piece. And what we have here is also that same idea, but a little different. This essentially counts as a significator. Now, why doesn't she have one? Well, because she was the only original manifestation. He is not actually infinite. Okay, he is a result. He is the result of necessity. He was born out of the necessity to be to be had. And so he was born in order to have. That was it. Without her wanting, he doesn't exist. So that said, this is the analog to this. These two are the same thing. Oh, and see the 3 holes? Let's let that camera catch up. I'm really sorry about that. Oh, that's a long delay. Okay. The 3 holes right there, which are these 3 here. But it also doubles as both a cup and a wand. I'm so sorry about that. Like, it's really going to be amazing when that never happens again. So, it's, oh my gosh. So it counts as both a cup and a wand, right? So this piece is a little different. What this is like a significator, or more like a, it's a way to help and assist you in looking at, hey, look here. Hey, look there, right? It's sort of like a cosmic arrow. Okay, it's sort of like a cosmic arrow that can, depending upon where it lands on the surface, will like literally point where you need to look. And there's some guidance with respect to the elemental correspondences, because this is sort of a union of both of these in this little piece. Since now that they've split and he's now born because of the necessity of this relationship, then this is kind of born out of that as well as an analog of that. So this lives in there and will give you some guidance with respect to what's surrounding this after the shuffle. So kind of pay attention to where this lands. Now, we do always have the opportunity to read this from the fivefold symmetry, the fivefold symmetry, so we can read it the way we would a normal pentagram. And the easiest way is to put the point up, and that's really just sort of a visual cue. That's just sort of like a visual cue so that you can know where the top of the pentacle would be, and then you can either use the 2 bottom corners for the 2. Wow, I'm having trouble concentrating. So what I'm going to do is not look at the screen and just assume you can see it, and just imagine that this is the top of this pentagram. For instance, that yellow section on top, and that would be the spirit section. And so if we were to draw that in our heads on top of here, that would land here, and those other 2 points would be on these corners, and then the other 2 points would land on the bottom in these flat areas, right? And if you had it this way, it would be the opposite of that. Essentially, you would have the point at the top here, the 2 outer would be over here and here, and then the 2 corners would wind up being the bottom of the pentacle. Okay, and so you could read it that way as well. But now you don't need to read the pentacle, and that's the beautiful part. Because what we could essentially do here is to use the significator to tell us where we're supposed to look. All right, and so let's just kind of go through that exercise, and then we're going to pick beads as well to sort of mock complete the reading before we get into the colliding, which is just great. I mean, that's what we're here to do, right? We're here to allow our souls to collide. We're here to facilitate that. That's the drive of the chariot. That's the reason he gets in there is to convince those drivers to bring that to fruition, and that's what we're here to do. And so, what we can do here is just give it a quick shuffle. And now I have these here as well. I don't think I've shown these, and so I think I want to show these. These are his witnesses. Let's remove those, and then we're going to put one back. Oh, I already have them. And I'm going to put the light one back. It's just very interesting how one of them happens to be substantially lighter. And so it almost begs to be the one that goes back, right? And so I'm going to put the witnesses here. And now we have two significators in the jar right now, or in the dish. We have the original, like the actual vector. It's like an arrow, pointing in the direction that it needs to point. But we also have which I've also kind of nicknamed over the years, the Spirit Stone. Right? The Spirit Stone. So it's it's the witness, the watcher, right? The witness. But it's also another significator. So if you're shuffling this up in here, and then you notice where it lands, or it makes itself visible, then pay attention to it. And it actually did, right here very specifically, around 2 fire and a sword. 2 fire and a sword. And so this is saying pay attention to that, right? And it's around some other energies. And some days it's easier to just ignore than others. And I have to say I've been very, almost like obsessively focused on completing this. And so now that it's done, it's going to be great. I'm going to sleep like the dead. And so I haven't really gotten much sleep. And so I'm not really coping very well with the skipping, because this is a very visual presentation. And so it's getting a little hard to think that the thing I'm pointing at is not seen until 5 seconds after I've spoken it, and I'm not sure where I am is throwing me off bad, because I'm tired and I'm not really mentally caught up to where I'm at, and it's confusing me. So, but that said, as I'm just going to, again, I'll just roll with it, I guess. So we have 2 significators in here, and we can read them both either way. Now, if we look at how it landed with the pentacle, it's important to look at where. So this particular significator, the big one, the witness, showed up in the water center. So that's a biggie. That's in his heart. And now we also have the other significator is pointing toward his earth, the physical center, right? And that's coming from spirit. So his spirit is in the body. And his witness is in the heart. And so, essentially the idea here is that the outside kind of stuff is very emotional, and his spiritual stuff is very grounded, physical. And as opposed to her circumstance here. So, but you get the idea. And by looking at where that's pointing and where it's pointing to and from can give us really good indications. Now, if you don't know the pentacle system, or don't care about it, or don't want to employ it, then we can simply use the elemental system that's in the dish here. And so it's the same idea. What we would do is we would say, okay, well, this is pointing right at fire. Right? This is pointing, and so there's a lot of will. It's coming from fire. Okay. Oh my gosh, that is really, 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 really frustrating. And then it's and pointing to fire. And then it's surrounded by a bunch of cups. Surrounded by a bunch of cups. And there's also 2 pentacles at that same place around the cup. This is speaking manifestation on the... Oh my gosh. Yeah. Channeling is a flow, and if it's not able to flow, there's no channeling. And it just becomes me butting up against my brain. While wanting really hard to tell you about the gradient between the earth and fire. There's a gradient between the earth and fire. Okay, so yeah, I can't do this. This needs to be corrected. And I have no idea what to do, because it's not my internet. I updated Windows 11. I suppose I can roll back to a prior version of Windows 11. That's hard. As far as like getting the right files right and making sure that you get the registry. I mean, try rolling back an update. It's a big pain in the butt. And it could potentially mess up stuff that is attached to files that are relevant to the update. And it could break OBS. I don't know. It might, and that's even worse. So. But yeah, but you get the idea. You know, I've showed it a few times, I guess, and so I should say maybe if there's anybody new bumping into this and you're thinking, wow, this guy seems like he has no idea what he's talking about, I don't want to come to this channel. Check out one of my older ones before this was happening. I was a little bit better at explaining it, but you get the idea. So it gives you some guidance on where to look, and if you have the knowledge of the pentacles, then you can apply that to the position of the different energies. For instance, the cup energy is very prominent in this top corner, whereas over here is mostly pentacle energy in this other corner. So the heart has a bunch of water, which is kind of great, but over here the mind has a bunch of pentacle, which is physicality, right? So there's heart in the heart, but there's body in the mind, which came up here differently, and this is all over the place. It kind of reads the same. This particular individual reads the same, or the way this energy fell in here is very similar across all of the pentacles. So that's just a core kind of quality here. And then we can continue the reading, or we can be satisfied with that and then move to the phase of doing the union. And so in this particular case, I'm going to want to give it one more shuffle, since the energy was so heavily focused on spirit going into physical, and everything that he wants to physically manifest is related to the like his mind is all on body. However, this spiritual stone, the witness, is all over a bunch of heart, and there's a little bit of speaking that heart in the air center, or in the water center rather. So there is some desire to speak the heart, but it's being overpowered by all this fire on that physical side. So let's take a look at that. Let's give it another shuffle. You can also twist it. You can turn it, shake it around, right? Just kind of get it going. Give it a good little bit of love. Did I see a beat? I did. 3 6 3 6 3 6 3 6 1. Okay. And so give it a good one. And when you feel like, okay, we're done, kind of decide what's going to be pointed up. Like, are you going to be pointing the point up or the flat side up, right? Like, which one is it going to be? And so if you have the point up, I kind of like it this way. And, you know, one of the reasons that I like it this way is that it's indicative of the oppositeness, of the beauty of her curves. And the angular kind of nature of the masculine one. Now, when he's square like that, that's there as well, but that just is, it seems a little, I don't know, more contrasty, right? Let's let that settle. Okay. And get a picture of the two. Right? The portrait of them separate before they get together. And there's a beautiful yin yang here with respect to the visuals. She is so exact, right? There's a beautiful symmetry to it. The colors are just all harmonized so beautifully, and there's this like perfect kind of this perfectness about it. And in his case, there's this kind of, it's meant to be shuffled and meant to be, right? We're using a significator as opposed to the 5 elements, and even if we use the 5 elements, we're relying on the shape of the environment rather than inside of the dish. Whereas here, these are satisfied by the actual physical elements themselves that are surrounding the 3. I'm sorry about that. I'm really sorry about that. And so, just it's a beautiful combination to see these two have the same exact math, the same exact components, the same story told in a completely different accent. It's quite beautiful. I just love it. I don't remember what I did with the baggie for her. Where's her baggie? Oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry about that. So then, let's put the witnesses back. Alrighty, so now the next thing that's going to happen here, actually, let me stop and catch up on the chat, but is that we're going to mix them. They're going to finally consummate. And before, I just want to pop this out again, because what I'm going to show you now is another brand new one, like just like this, complete, same thing. All the math is identical, but it looks nothing like it. However, instead of revealing the components, this is just everything poured into a bowl. So it's the mommy, the daddy, the baby. It's all together in a bowl, and that's what you're going to see. And so you're going to see the unfolding tomorrow or another day. This is the complete thing. This is the end of the story all at once. Okay? And this is kind of, again, what I'm going to be showing you now. But in this case, you don't know the story, so it's just a big jumble of pretty color, right? I mean, it's just a jumble of pretty color and shapes. Until you actually know the story, then it's that's all you see, right? It's beautiful. I love it almost has like a fantasy kind of vibe. It gives me this. It gives me like a found treasure kind of. This one feels like a treasury kind of vibe. Right? I just love that. Almost like the Trinket Box. The Trinket Box gives me this sense of like a treasure. The beads are different, and the reason I like the beads is that there's no personality that until we give it one. Symbols have meaning. So when I look at this and I see a wing, right away I think something about that. When I see a star, right away I think something about that, right? Or even this, that has a sort of like glimmery, fantastic kind of vibe to this bead, you know? But at the end of the day, this is just a tone. You know, it's a beautiful meditative process to just run your fingers through that and to... This kind of, you know, think about and meditate over the different interplay of the elements. Oh, I know, right? Oh, the dragons lying on gems. Same idea. It's just inspiration. It's just a pretty thing to look at. Grab one, see how it makes you feel. Oh, look at that. It's a little flag bead. I mean, but what is it, America? But a very interesting idea about out of many, one. Right? Out of one, many. Out of many, one. So, she makes the call. He answers. That said, though, we have this, the new dish. Took a few days to find it. I got to finally use it yesterday, and it came out pretty nice. But the next working here, what we do is that the dance begins, right? And so I typically start with her. The idea here is she started the whole thing anyway, right? And so she gets to go first. And the gist here is that now here she is in her world all by herself. And it's kind of the analog of what happened before, but now we're just seeing it unfold right here. There's no reading anymore since we've done it. And then she calls out and he answers. Right. Now, what's in here right now is her witnesses, his witnesses. There's 10 of them total. So there's 10 total witnesses in here. 5 of hers, 5 of his. We have 1 significator. And now, depending upon how you choose you want to point this, you can either point it from the blue going to red, which is the way I choose it, or you can go from red to blue. Or you could even do the opposite of that. So if it's facing this way, then you would go up and down, right? You can choose to go kind of like the opposite and then allow that white bead to determine the actual direction. It's kind of up to you. It's important to just keep yourself open to the intuition of that, right? That's the ultimate goal there. And so just give it a stir, and you can read as it stands. And there's multiple ways that you can read this. All right, it's the same idea as far as I'm making chili, crock pot. Oh yeah, I love chili. I'll make the bread. I make a really good bread for chili too. It's really good. It soaks it up perfect, but it's still kind of chewy. It's the perfect kind of bread because even though it's soaked in stew, it stays chewy. That's when you know you have good bread. Let's just take a minute to just admire this, because there's a difference between, and this is what I was trying to illustrate with this. This is a beautiful little bowl of treasure, right? It's a nice green bowl. It's got all these little gemstones in it. You know what this reminds me of? Like here, let's see. This one, maybe that. Yeah, where's that? Yeah, this is one of those. I love these. Okay, this kind of reminds me of Goonies. Right, at the end when they had the gemstones, right? Save the city with the Goonie gemstones. So it's pretty, but there's no context, and so it's just a big bowl of pretty, right? But we've told this story multiple times now. We know that the red are the wands. We know that the green are the pentacles. We know that the big, beautiful, hand-painted spheres are her higher self in its constituent parts, right? And same with these. These are his higher self constituent parts. They haven't been brought into separation yet, and so they look the same. They won't in a minute once the baby comes out. And so now the dance is happening. They're making love. They're enjoying themselves. They're realizing the truth. And just allow the dance to happen. And at some point, you're going to go through the energetic experience of it's time to stop. And when it is, let them go and now read. Now look at this. This is so interesting. Look what happened. Look what happened. Look at her will, just completely separating everything. Like there's a total separation here. The heart pentacle, the heart pentagram is completely separate here from her. Witnesses are cutting the whole thing in half. Crazy. All right, here, let me just grab my pointer. Everybody see that? Like it's almost making a line right there. Oh, come on, camera. All right. These are her witnesses, all in a line. And on the other side of that is a bunch of physical manifestation, a bunch of it, 2 voices, 2 wills, and all kinds of her witnesses there. And then the rest of this is underneath that, controlled by a bunch of heart, like all the heart, right? But that's just really neat how these just made a kind of a straight line. Cinnamon coffee cake. Yes, please. And I would like some coffee, black, 2 sugars, and a packet of hot chocolate mix. And thank you. So let's give it a shuffle. And now we're gonna read the pentacle again. With respect to, we're going to start with mind, and we're going to go from mind down into will to see what that looks like. Okay? And just to be clear on what that means, if we look at this pentagram on top here, we're going to start at the mind, which in this case is, because reasons, Aquarius. We're going to go from there down into Leo. So we're going to read that line. So as we're shuffling here, we're going to essentially draw that pentacle in our heads on this space. So that the top one here of spirit, then over here is going to be the area of the in this case Scorpio, which is the heart, water. Over here is going to be Aquarius, of the air part. So we're going to be reading where the mind is going, and then we're going to look at all the stones that are leading down into the Leo area of the fire. Okay, and just get a sense of that relationship. Then we're going to read this relationship, okay, which is looking into the idea of making physically manifest the heart as opposed to mind. Now, here's the point of this when you're looking at the manifestation portion. If you want to speak heart, that means you need to go from air to water. And so you're going to have to go across that line. So that's what you're going to want to read. You know, if the heart is not being spoken, that's what you're going to want to read to figure out why. If you're going to want to figure out why somebody is rejecting is the sense of not listening. And if listening is the cup, then the not listening would be pentacle, right? Speaking would be sword. And not speaking would be, will. Will is doesn't need to speak. But so, consider this relationship. There you go, okay. All right. This relationship for speaking and so forth. Manifesting is always going to end on pentacle. So this is, manifesting heart is going to have to go through the voice. You can't go straight from or if you want to get to will from air, you can't just jump straight down. You have got to go across, right? Or you can take the long way. Man, the camera's really messing with me. Trying to draw a pentacle in the air when it just doesn't. I've been getting to think too that a lot of these lessons might be more appropriate for like a video as opposed to a live stream, because it's at least it'll be up. It'll be in one piece, and it'll be learned instead of like, what is he saying? And that was about to make sense until it skipped and he stopped talking. But you have the opportunity to manifest using the pentacle, and that allows you to use it as a manifestation tool. I'm sorry, it's really getting to me, the confusion. The past couple of days have been me attempting to ignore this, and it's that's getting to a part where that's being spent, right? That energy is not infinite. And I have to reconsider that. So what am I at here? Yeah, I think it's okay for me to take a break, right? Put a little coffee together and try to relax. Our reason for being is to be heard, and I believe that you were listening, and so I appreciate that. And I suppose I just have to get rid of my expectation of how I want it to be heard. Because I really want to believe that I'm saying it in a degree that's something I've known for 25 years. I can speak to somebody that they'll understand. And so it's important that I feel like I'm getting the words across properly. And I'm a visual speaker. And so if I'm attempting to speak something visually and I can't show it, then I feel like it won't be understood. And so I feel like the work's not done. And so I feel like I don't know, it's hard to explain my mental state right now, but I want so hard for you to have the same access. This can show you everything. And I just want to be able to tell you how it works. I promise you it works. And so it's maybe not time for me to do that. But look how pretty it is. And, there's lots of books that'll teach you pentagram magic until I'm able to do that. But it's really effective for doing that. There's a lot of diagrams for LBRP. If you consider that that's a banishing ritual and run it in reverse, you're looking at manifestation. And that's the very simple version. I will be teaching magic, but on a personal level with individuals, like a group, but off live stream. And that'll be a little different circumstance. Right? That'll be I won't be relying upon streaming software and other things, and it won't be hiccuping and like that. So. Strange, this is OBS, and the reason I know that is that I use Teams, I use Hangouts, I use a lot of stuff for my privates, and my privates are smooth. They work great. There's no problems. I record them. They record at full HD just fine. Good audio. I don't know. So I just haven't figured out OBS. Well, I did figure it out. Windows 11 broke OBS, and I'm waiting for the update to fix it, because I can't. I have it at the absolute lowest possible settings possible There's nowhere for me to go. There's no lower, there's no faster, there's no less. So this is it until the update. I shall be patient. I'll just keep speaking it until I can't even speak anymore. That's all. What else is there to do? But and then when we get back, what I'm going to do is the final working, which is beautiful. You take this after you've done your reading, you've had your learning, the dance has occurred, and you're satisfied that you've gotten the information that you want out of that reading. You combine them into a single being, and you put them in your hand. Then you bring out the baby, and I can't wait to show it to you guys. Actually, I don't even know what to say because it's so beautiful. Yeah, it's so beautiful. So what I'm going to do, here's what I'm going to do. It just dawned on me. I'm going to work my setup out here somehow where I can bring it, I don't know, elsewhere. I don't know. The solution will come to me. I mean, actually, what it is, it's waiting. I'm not the only person who had a Windows 7 update that broke OBS. And so either OBS or Windows are going to be working on it eventually. And so I guess it should just, keep bugging the message boards, keep telling the devs, and hopefully they'll read one of my emails. But, okay. So I'll be back in a couple minutes. Let me just get my coffee together and... yeah, let me get this here. Okay. Sorry if I sound crazy. I am. It's proven that a lack of sleep causes psychosis, which is cool though, because psychosis is necessary for, speaking to demons. But yeah, that said though, wait till I show you my 64-bit binary math calculator made out of beads. Yeah, do that while you're tired. It's true though, but it works. Anyway, so I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Alrighty. That sounds amazing. Caramel frap, I'll take it. Caramel is one of my favorite flavors. There's something about it. It's like salty sweet. It's like built-in savory. Caramel was one of the words I got one of those times. One of those 3-word exercises I was going through where I asked strangers to give me the first word that came to their head. And I'd ask 3 people for a word. That was a good one. It was one of those... It came out kind of really, really poetic. Even though the words they gave me, it sounded like somebody was trying to throw me off, like they heard, and they were trying to give me a weird word. Let me see. I forget what. I think it was like voluptuous, which is, I love that word. Any word that's 4 syllables that starts with a V. Okay. Where is this one? It's so good. I mean, caramel, just the word caramel. Here we go. Oh, how appropriate. All right, it's not what I thought, so forget it. This is going back 6 or 7 years, so. Chrome, goddess, and caramel. That's the other one. Where's the caramel goddess one? It's so good. I don't think it's goddess. Caramel. What was it? It's really good. I'm doing everything I can to get into the right mindset. I'm sorry for being frustrated. It's I'm not being good to my body, and I'm paying the price for that. You know, I'm singular, and that's not healthy. Let's see. Oh, there's all kind of good stuff in here. Oh my gosh. Whoa, cool. Wow. I wrote this 7 years ago. God is the dancer, you're the dance. Let the natural rhythm of truth be your song. That's great. Wow, Michael. You're half right. You are the dance and the dancer. And the rhythm. God sleeps in stones, stirs in plants, dreams in animals, and is awakened in us. Silence is underrated. Cherish it. It's the source of truth. That's good stuff. And now that's come on, where is it? Where's the caramel? Give it to me. It's so good. I just have to make up a new one. Ah, here it is. Cool. This actually, I'm surprised I didn't remember. This experience worked out so well that I took a bunch of them that I thought were like really good and stuck them together, and it motivated an entire story. And it was great. It was a great story. It was like really good. It's about a guy who is infatuated with this woman that he feels is completely, utterly out of his league. And what he doesn't realize is that she has a crush on him. And then he finds out. And so there's this interesting play about her nodding no that he knows. She doesn't know he knows. And she's playing with him, thinking he doesn't know. It's just great. Oh, anyway, so this is it. The 3 words are madly, caramel, voluptuous. She gazed madly at the sheer voluptuous silk that was his anticipation. The thoughts of the caramel of her kiss haunted his dreams. That's good stuff, come on. That is good stuff. If you let yourself have it. If not, it's really just words in a row. But of course, isn't that the universe? Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow, you should read this. This is great. This is my favorite. I'm going to close the book now. You can't lose what you never had to begin with. Love is not immune to this. There's only one kind of love that is real. There's no other kind. That's better. Okay. So the way I've been doing it is essentially merging them a little bit at a time, right? And then kind of telling the story. And I went through it yesterday, and it went really well yesterday. So I'm going to leave it at yesterday, because I'm not in a position to tell the story well. And if I tell it wrong, I'm going to feel awful and horrible and for no reason. So let's not tell the story wrong, but I am just going to go through the steps here, and we're just going to introduce the two of them to their new home, which is the place they've always been. This is symbolically just reintroducing the energy to where it is to begin with. And so this is us recognizing that this whole separation of us putting them in the bowl and mixing it up and all this was just our imaginations. Okay. And I typically start with her will. So that's what I drop in there first, are her main sort of elements, which are devoid of definition. They're identical. Although one is fire and one is water, one is earth, the eventuality, and one is air, and all these things, and mind and spirit. They don't have a distinct form yet. They're all unified in the higher world under her. And these are his. Same idea, slightly different shape. These are much more angular. They're much more, they're darker, two-toned with a little fleck, as opposed to this beautiful hand-painted, sort of menagerie of color. And so you'll see now we have 10. Right? And so here are the Sephiroth. And they're all dancing around, doing their thing. Beautiful. And just let them dance. And now, have take that in for a minute. Take in the color and take in the vibe of the fact that all we have in here right now is the unification of the two of their main sort of constituent elements that are unified. There's no difference yet. And so it's just the interplay of his angularity and her curves. That's it. That's all we're seeing. I mean, this is what lovemaking looks like in heaven, right? There's no real difference between these two, other than the fact that they're one's round and one's square. They're actually the same being from 10 different directions. That's what we're actually looking at. We think that they're separate and but they're not. It's just one being from 10 perspectives, and they're all self perspectives. And I've talked about it before. Looking at your world through the eyes of your heart is different than your mind, is different than your body, and it's different than your spirit. This is us doing that in the upper and the lower world at the same time through all 5 senses. It's a beautiful moment of self-realization. It's a singular being. It's quite beautiful. Now we're going to move to her will. Right? So we're going to put her... This is the feminine wand. And then we're going to do his wands. Which, in his particular circumstance, the wands are these, which are just gorgeous. These are my favorite beads that I've seen in quite a while. These alone are so visionary. I mean, that's a guy sitting on a horse, for God's sakes, right? You know, there's all kinds of goodies in here. And each one is completely unique. And it's that white hot with the flames. And so this is his fire. Okay. It doesn't represent wand. You can call it wand when you're using it for tarot. And it does mean that, but it doesn't. It means that heat, fire, right? So we're just going to introduce his will. I love that one. Looks like a drop. Just great. And has that little red flash in it. Look how cool that is. It's just an accidental red flash. Love that. Just really pretty, aren't they pretty? Look at all those little fire elementals just calling. I want to play. You will. And so now we finally have a will. See, a moment ago, it was just itself, knowing itself. Now it's itself, knowing itself through a will. It actually has desire. But the desire is still undefined. The only thing it knows is itself, and that its will is to maintain that self, for that to not stop, to continue the conversation forever. That's all it wants. Just stay together and dance forever. That's it. And now we move on to the next phase. And in the higher world, the next phase is the upper sword, the mind of the divine feminine. Okay. And that's going to be the swords. These are the silver ones. And so suddenly, she's able to know, and she's able to speak. And so suddenly, this is the first time that something is actually manifesting, coming out of this circumstance externally. Up until this point, it was all just an internal experience of the will knowing itself, and driving that will toward that singular goal of that knowing being maintained. Now it has a voice, and she's able to call out. And in that calling out, as a necessity, is born his cup. And his cup is the teardrops here. To be filled by her voice. So she calls out, and he hears her, and he answers. He's filled up by her voice. So finally we have the union of the red and blue. Finally we have this union of the two wills, the two divines, and now mind and heart, divine mind and profane heart, are unified. Beautiful. Now at this point he speaks back. Now his swords are conch shells. Why? Because you put them up to your ear to hear. So they're speaking. They're in a state of speaking. He answers her call and he speaks back. She hears him. These are her cups. This is the higher world cup. Love that. That's just pretty. It's interesting because it is beautiful, isn't it? But there's one thing that's really, really missing, and you see that already at the dish. It's kind of obvious. There's no green or brown. There's very little natural, with the exception of his, due to the choice that I made, frankly, or his swords. So have a little kind of a brown tone. Everything else is very unnatural. Bright reds and pinks and bright cyanish blue or aqua. The pink paint and the hand painted, even the flowers almost have a yellowish green, like an unreal yellowish green. It's really something. And then, of course, in this entire play and act, she becomes pregnant in their love and gives birth to the body. The body is born out of necessity for there needing to be a place for that to occur. So for her to bring forth physical manifestation, there needed to be a thing for that to occur in, and thus her pentacle was born out of that necessity. That's kind of why it's called the unfolding here, because each thing outside of the original first will was just born out of necessity of that will being realized. And so that's the only original creation, is that first original will. Everything else is just an unfolding, it's a permutation. And so now we have the divine body, which is space, has been born. And through this act, all of the pieces that are necessary are in place for the final piece to come into, which is the unification of the divine body and the universe to form the full, complete, unified being, one in body, mind, spirit, and of course the only thing that existed ever but divine heart. And then if you'd like, which I always do, put in your vector, close it up, there you go, and tell your story. Isn't that lovely? It's a lot better without the ring light shining on you. Let's see if I can block that with my hand. All right. It's just beautiful. And now this could be applied a number of different ways. And the way I've been doing it to kind of just keep it up in this space is that I'll take this pouch out and put it in this space. So now it's here for me to kind of reference while I'm reading this. Because this is the biggie. This is the pasterizos. Yeah, pardon my pronunciation. I'm tired. My tongue can't do French when I haven't slept. Oui, oui. So, this is the complete totality of the tarot. Wait till you see it. I'm so proud. And frankly, the fact that this occurred with, I'm not kidding. I know it sounds hyperbolic. 6 hours in the past 3 days. I'm just too busy getting this out. Now it's out. I can sleep. It's okay. I'm gonna sleep like the dead tonight. I can't wait. The release is about to happen. It's all come to this moment, and it's about to get into this bowl, complete for you to see. It took forever digging through the beads to get the right ones. Really, it matters to me. And if I make one for you, I'm gonna not sleep for 3 days to get it right. It will be right. It will be magically, mathematically perfect. Okay? So, let me stretch for a minute, take a sip of my coffee, and then drop this bomb on you guys, because it's so great. By the way, have you guys seen this? I love this. You know what, Missy? Something just dawned on me, which I think is amazing. Why can't we have, like, all right, who's listening? This should be, Grubhub should pay attention right now. DoorDash, it's time to listen. Any other delivery services or individuals that are like gig drivers and workers, pay attention. Why can't we just have like a group where you go into the group and then there is specific, shared resources that are verified, obviously, needs to be, that serve everyone in the group. So, for instance, there's a McDonald's that will deliver to you, me, her, him, she, and say, we want to just all have a coffee at the same time. Or we're all feeling like we want to do XYZ or whatever. So, we hit the button and then it just gets delivered to 5 different houses across the country. That wouldn't be too hard. We could do it right now with separate phone calls or with an app, and everyone using their separate DoorDash app or whatever delivery service you use. But hey, why not, right? I could totally use a caramel frappuccino right now. So like, for real, who's driving? I can't leave. I'm just streaming, man. I got 2 more hours to do. So, yeah. Okay. I'll put this up here. That's better. Without further ado, I give you the Dancer. I believe it's going to be called the Dancer. I don't know yet. I think that, because here's the deal. Pearls of Wisdom, Arsturian Stones, fine. I like that. I love that, actually. The Rock of Truth, the Stones of Sincerity. Love that too. Souls collide. Give in to the dance. Perfect. You're about to see the product of all that is this. And I called it the Dancer because that's what it is. But it's not, because we are the dancer, but we're also the dance. But we're also the thing being danced. We're also the environment it's dancing in. We're all those things. So what do you call it? The knowing. The unfolding. Anyway, you ready? What I'm going to do first is just lay it all out and show you the whole thing, and then we're going to go through the different pieces, because again, everything is in here, including all 36 small cards. Well, all 40, including the 3 supernal triads, the 7 planets, the 12 signs. Everything is here. The entire tarot, the I Ching, it's all here. So here it goes. It's so awesome. Here we go. Okay, let's do it noisy. So what we're looking at is the amalgamation of these two things. This and this are identical. One is the higher world, perfected version, which includes all of the elements in their perfected state, so there's no difference to them. And it's the complete union of the male and female, separate but same. And what this is the same exact thing holographically, but as one entity. And so you'll notice that all the components are slightly different, but slightly the same. And we have some very beautiful things here. This would be one of the planets. This is one of the planets. This is one of the planets. Right? This is one of the supernal triads. Okay. Right. See where I'm going with that? Okay, and then we're going to have underneath that 7 planets. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. Let's go up here, you got the idea. 6. Blind. 7. Okay. So we have the 7 planets and the supernal triad there on the top. Okay. So I have 1. Let's separate them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so these are your 7 planets. And the purpose of this view here, just to be clear, let me just scoot this over so I can have this seated up here. Okay. Is that there's a chaotic nature to it. The idea of this is that it can be read very, very intuitively and easily because there's perfect symmetry to it. Even in the male and female, there's perfect symmetry. Whereas this is perfect chaos. However, the entire system is there. All the blues are water, I promise. All the reds are fiery. All the metals are the air. It's all there. And these three beautiful supernal triads, look at how gorgeous that is. Right? The gold of Keter, Chokmah Binah. So 1, 2, and 3 are right here. Right? And then we can go into the idea of the 7 planets underneath that. Right? These are the next 7 tarot cards. So far we have those 10 cards represented in the 3 elements and the 7 planets right away, those 10 majors. And then the next 12 are represented in the actual suits themselves. So like for instance, we would have the 12 signs of each 3 of the elements. So we have the water, the different versions of the 3 elements of water, right? Let's let that catch up. Oh my gosh, the delay is terrible. There we go. All right. Same idea with fire. Okay. And there's all these different iterations of that across the board here. The pentacles. And then we have the small cards. Okay. And these are just representative. The way that the small cards are derived are through elements or using the binary, which we're going to get to in a minute here. Okay. And so what we would essentially do is decide what we're going to be reading. It's important that I put the whole thing in one shebang so you can see this is the totality of manifest reality. I mean, it's all here. Like literally everything. There's nothing missing. And in here is the entire tarot. All 7 planets, 12 signs, 3 letters, small cards, all the deacons. Everything's in here. There's also the entire I Ching is in here as well. Plus a couple of extras. The full 72-fold Shem Hamepharesh is in here. It's all there. And so you decide what you're reading, and if you want to just dump it all in, or if you just want to use the pieces that you need. So for instance, one of my favorite readings is just the signs and planets, which is, it's a very interesting visually, and it's a great meditative tool, and it's also a great tool for an astrology spread in the tray, right? And so let's just look at that for a moment, and see how that begins to manifest itself as an actual reading. And then we're going to look at this to pull some small cards, the binary calculator. And so what I'm going to do here is just separate these really quickly. The 3 supernals, right? The mother letters of Aleph, Mem, Shin, also air, fire, water, or air, water, fire. And then the 7 planets. And so let's just get these separated. Okay. 1, 2. These are pretty, aren't they? Let me show you that. It's a pretty one. Isn't that gorgeous? This thing is so interesting. I just love that. Those are faces speaking. Like they're a bunch of faces that are talking. So look at that. Look at the difference between this bright candy-like, right, and then reality. It's beautiful. There is rich color to it, but it's sort of undertoned. It's not so rich and bright, and like I remember when I was a kid. I'm a huge astronomy buff, huge, and my uncle had a really good telescope, and I was at his house once, and he showed me the telescope, and he showed me a couple of planets. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, they don't look the same as I've seen in all the books. And NASA does a lot of post-processing of images to make certain things that aren't readily visible to the eye visible. But that also lends to the fact that the images won't be accurate to what you'd see with the eye. And so when you look out into the universe with the eyes, it's a very different circumstance than when you're looking out with infrared, ultraviolet, and then somebody in the back end who's an artist to kind of Photoshop it all together, right? And so there's kind of a beauty to the rawness of these colors in that they're understated. But when you look at each individual planet, they're quite beautiful. I mean, look at that. That's not understated at all. There's so much going on in this bead, right? I mean, there's just so much going on in there that it's not even remotely understated, you know? Same thing, look at this. Look at the main positive energy. Is that gorgeous? Look at the symmetry of that. 14, by the way. For the symmetry here is 14. Just beautiful. And this is the right-hand pillar. Or the left-hand pillar. But you get the idea. They're just beautiful. And so the planets are really something. And you could just read this, right? And so let's just go through that exercise really quickly. We've got all these little pieces going on in here. And what these pieces are all the suits. So these are going to be sword. Because they're metal. And this is one of them is the masculine sword and one of them is the feminine sword. And you're going to notice there's 3 of each. Okay, and that's not accidental. 3 of these are the feminine and 3 are the masculine. And each one of us has these in us. Each one of us has a little piece of the divine feminine, and each one has a little piece of divine masculine. And this is feminine and masculine mind. Okay, 50-50. Same thing with cup, water. Okay, and so what we've got here is feminine and masculine divine cup. Okay. Yeah, these beads are really interesting. Those little mini hearts, those are actually, oh my God, that delay is gonna kill me. Wow. Those are actually turquoise, and they're pretty heavy. They're good weight. So these little chips that are a different material than that are very light compared to those turquoise. But you get the idea. And there's 3 of each, 3 feminine, 3 masculine, and they're all cups. Looks like I'm missing a black and white bead. Let's see, these are her pentacles. Yeah. And there's 2 of his. Yeah, these 3 are here. Here's 2 of his. I don't know where the 3rd is. These wouldn't fit through the hole, right? These aren't going to fit through there? No. Okay. Let me see if there's one in here, because I don't know where that went. I counted it several times to make sure that all the pieces were there, so it must have slipped out during one of the transfers. I don't know. Sort of the risk you run when you make them out of stuff in your home is that you might not have extras, which certainly you're going to want if you're making it for yourself. You're going to want to have extra beads in the event that unfortunately that happens. But here, give me a moment. And I'm going to see if I can locate it, because, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not there. Okay, hang on. Let's see if I can. No fun at all. Oh my gosh. I can't, let's see. Sorry about that. So, let's try that again. So, here are the pentacles. These are hers and these are his. And I thought this was interesting, too, because I chose black and white for his and straight up green for her. Which is really interesting, too, because, you know, back in my days in Vermont, when I was in the gem and mineral business as like an actual trade, there was a very interesting stone I came in contact with called Gaia Stone. And what Gaia Stone is the remnants of Mount St. Helens. While they were out there trying to rescue people and rescue equipment and kind of do their thing after a volcano, all of the ash that had collected had certain mineral composition that when the arc welders would hit the ash, it would melt into this green glass, which is very interesting. And it's only in that area of the world. It's only in that ash. Other ashes, they turn into a black glassy material similar to an obsidian. But this, and it's similar almost to like a tektite in quality. But it's not a tektite. It's a naturally occurring thing on Earth. It requires extreme heat under certain circumstances to turn into this glassy material. Well, it's a very lovely color green. And this is similar. This also almost has very close to like a Moldavite green, although this is not Moldavite. But it has that kind of vibe, right? And him with the black and white. It's just beautiful. And so those are the pentacles. Okay. And then finally we have the, we did wands, we did the cups, we did the swords, on the pentacles. Good. Okay, and then there's these small cards down here. Okay. And the small cards are the planetary and sign combinations, right? Venus in Virgo. Mars in Scorpio, so forth. The sign and planets. And now these are the small cards. And there's a couple of different types. And I want to make that distinction in this particular oracle so you can see how I put it together. And it might give you some guidance when doing yours if you're going to use the small cards. All right? Okay, so these are the 4 suits. Which one do you think's the pentacle? Obviously, it's the peace sign. But you get the idea here. So what we have is the bluish ones that are swirly. There's also some red ones that are swirly. All right, there's some purple ones that are swirly, some red ones, but they're all swirly. Air. These are the air. These are the swords. Okay, the small card swords. There's a bunch just for probability purposes. The actual way that you pick the card is going to be using the binary for math. I'll show you that in a sec. But you get the idea. All the swirly ones are the air. The water are... Well, let me show you these. The earth ones are pretty. I want to show off the earth ones. They're pretty little beads. And there's a bunch of them in here. Let me just grab them all. There's 10, of course, because there's 10 pentacles, ace through 10. Those are the cups, those are the pentacles. Yeah, these are the water. Okay, yeah. These are the cups. And you'll notice, again, they're not all blue, because not all water is blue. Some water is brown. Some water is green. Some water is kind of yellowish, muddy. Anyone who's gone fishing knows that you don't fish in clear water. Come on, man. If you're in a lake, it's going to be a little, kicking up some stuff. So these are all water. Notice they're kind of jagged, almost like ice crystals. Right? Water is not always liquid. Sometimes it's a solid, sometimes it's a gas, sometimes it's a liquid. In fact, most of the water in the world is not, or in the universe is not liquid. A majority of it isn't, right? But these are water. The small cards, the 1 through 10s, or the ace through 10 of cup. Okay. And also elementally they're water. You don't have to read this as tarot. The whole reason I'm doing this demonstration is to show you how it can be used as tarot. It does not have to be used as tarot. Okay. And then we have we did, for the small cards, we did the pentacle, we did air, we did earth, we did, and then fire, right? My eyes are bugging out. Yeah, those were water, those were air. Water. These were the air. Those were the fire. These are the earth. So these were the fire. Yeah, these are the fire. The wands. I think the peace sign is actually a very good wand, right? It's actually a beautiful symbol too, if you consider what it is. The points got the 3 into 1. It's kind of beautiful. Or more importantly, the 1 into 3, which is equally beautiful. I mean, it's the whole idea of the every 2 has a third in a symbol. That has nothing to do with every 2 has a third. Just beautiful. And finally, I would say that from the respect of when you're building an oracle, make sure that none of the smaller pieces will fall through the holes. There were certain ones that I had picked for air that were too small, and they actually fell out. And so, thankfully, I went through that learning, and just just be careful. If you do have a dish with holes, careful about that. But so now, what this does is this gives us an environment, right? This environment includes both the small cards, which are the interplay of the things around the planets and the environment, and this also has the suits, the signs are in here as well. Now, you can either read it that way, or the way I've been reading it, which I find is much, much easier. And the way that this is designed is there to help you in that. How lucky that this is designed with a 6-fold symmetry. So you can easily split it into 12 with no problem, right? In your eye, you can just split it up with the star. Let's let that video catch up. And you could also do it opposite, right? So coming from these points. So it's very easy in your mind to break these lines up, right? And read it as you would 12 houses of the zodiac. Okay, so we could easily just sort of like break it up in our minds, that sphere, and have that appear in here as we would just number it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which would also give us some learning with respect to the signs, right? Because we know that from our wheel, that we could easily apply those signs in the same position as those houses. Starting in the first house of Aries, which is going to be to the left part of the tray. Okay, and so what we would be able to do is to just put it, apply it here like that. And it's to visualize breaking this up into 12 might be a little difficult at first, but if you consider that there's actually 12 points on here on this little star, it makes it easier. Or you could even take a Sharpie and just, put 12 dots around the outside to kind of visually see where the houses break. But once you put them in here and read it from the astrological house perspective, it's really something, right? And so let's just put the planets in, and the all of the elements. Right? And so we're just gonna have it in there. I know everyone's planets are going to be different, and I'm a little exhausted. I'm probably going to get confused and mistake it. And so rather than me going through each bead and telling you my planets, I'll do it as we read. Okay, so. So what we have here is this, if we consider what we're looking at, it's the sky. We're going to look at it as if we're looking at an astrological chart. That is as far as it's similar enough in size to no. Okay. I'm gonna have to put together some like overlay graphics now that I've finally found the dish and I know what size it's going to be on the screen. I can do the graphics so it'll overlay perfectly. But so just imagine the houses over this, right? And starting with the first house, for those who aren't familiar, I have this chart that I use as well when doing spreads. The first house is related to yourself or your identity. All right, and so we're going to look at this circumstance, and we're going to go to the first house of this period. And again, if you're having trouble with it, you can see the points of the star here and where they land, and so they can give you some idea. So let's turn that point to the top. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in the middle of that is going to be the first house in this area right here. And it's important, too, to remember this is an intuitive process. Don't get too hung up on the exactness, because that's the point of this. It's not exact. This is. The math is perfect. It's absolute. It's divine. It's divinely inspired. It's in the divine order. This is, we got here, and we made bad mistakes, and we, and all of our stuff bouncing around, and so it's pure chaos, right? It even looks chaotic compared to the other style. This beautiful kind of symmetry in the colors, the harmonies of the colors are always present. This is that beautiful chaos of real life. So in that first house, we see, first of all, I notice is that the main crown is right in the first house. Bang! It's like right in there. This is the beginning of the story, right? And that first house contains a lot of physical manifestation. 3 pentacles. It contains a lot of water, which is emotion. Body and emotion is driven by divine. That's beautiful. So what a great place to start in the first house is that your mind, your body, and your heart are being driven by divine. And how far you want to go with this, depending upon whether you're looking at your own individual circumstance, or you're looking at, say, for instance, client work or for a friend or family. You can either jump to their specific question, right? Like, oh, yeah, so I met this guy in a bar, and he seems really sweet, but then somebody told me that he was a serial killer, and I looked in his car, and there was rope and duct tape. Should I go out with him? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over here, and we're going to look at a couple of things. The first thing we're going to look at is 7, and we're going to look at 11. Right. So first we're going to look at number 7, and if you go to the wheel, it's kind of a little bit right past the halfway point, right? And so we're going to look at that halfway point, and then we're going to go a little bit past it. So it's kind of like in this area right here is that 7th house. Okay. And what this is going to be is there's a lot of will, there's a lot of speaking, but when we have some planetary influence here as well. Very interesting. Curiously, what planet do you guys think this is? Of the planets that I have out. What does that feel to you guys? Do you really? What, the readers? That's cool. Yeah, I have an actual pair of readers that I bought and spent money for, and the ones I'm wearing are the cheapies. Let me see if I can find my nice ones. Let's do a little modeling, why not? I'm having a weird night. So, when it was time to purchase a pair of glasses, I went in and I bought these. Now, these are progressive. So, the reader's on the bottom, the driving is in the middle, and the sides are, or the center is supposed to be for this, and then the rest is for distance. And so I'm supposed to be wearing these all the time. However, I haven't worn glasses all the time like I was supposed to since 3rd grade. And I mean that literally. I just don't like them. And then contacts, I don't like either. So I just don't wear them because I'm a sovereign being. So, hi there. Anyway, so yeah, there's these. And the reason I got these is I thought they kind of looked like Patrick Bateman. I don't know. The glasses don't. And it turns out they're too wide for my face, so I hate them. But in the meantime, and they were expensive, these are my backups. These were free. Insurance, baby. And these look like, what was that movie with Michael Douglas where he played a dude that was like really tired of getting picked on and he went absolutely ballistic and blew up L.A.? Or was it Detroit? Anyway, that one. Hi there. So yeah, these are those. These are like super light, and if they break, I don't care. But a weird look. I don't know. They're like catty. I want to always like bend them down. They're not the right shape for my face. But the prescription's only good for like TV, movies, and driving. I can't read with them on. I can't see the computer with them on. These are the readers that I bought. So yeah. There you go. I don't know which one's better. These. Yeah, these are the ones. Oh yeah, oh these are great. Oh man, thank you. Because they would have been sitting up here and I've been using these. You want another pair? No, wait, what are these? These are 2.5. What I don't know what magnification you have, but these are 2.5. Investa. Bonjour, bonjour. Okay, where are we? I was going to catch up on the stream and I haven't even looked up. So I apologize. I'm like way behind you. What am I, 2.5 hours behind you guys? In like my own Professor Truth. Why, thank you for noticing. So, yes, truth is what we're here to do. And you know what's really cool? Once you know the truth, every word you hear is professing the truth. And so I am the Professor of Truth if you've made it to the Inner Sanctum. Cool. Do you mean that in the spiritual sense, or did you actually just wake up? Because, spoiler alert, it's November. Okay. So was it a good look for me? I don't know. The glasses I wore before this were silver. Rimless with just a silver band and silver on the sides. That was it. They were totally rimless, and so you could barely see that they were on. But it would have been too expensive to have a new lens put in them because they were like a piece of jewelry. It wasn't. You had to go send them off somewhere and whatever. It was like I don't have time for all that. So I just got to get those. Awesome. Well, let's stretch real quick. And say, good morning, world. So, okay. Let's give it a stir. And we'll pick a house. And we'll go from there. So, how beautiful, right? We can read this elementally. We can read the pentagram. We can read the astrology. We can read multiple different ways. And let's say we want to pick a small card. just for whatever reason, because we have this beautiful oracle that lets us see the entire totality of human possibility in one dish. Why not complicate that by adding a... So let's do that. So what you essentially do is you grab one of the smaller pieces. They're easy to feel the difference. A planet is big, right? Planets are big. They're heavy. There's some weight on that, right? The supernals are big. The small cards are obvious and they're small, right? And so you can pick through them that way if you'd like. Or another way that you can choose this, and I always thought that this was a very interesting way to do that, is to use one of the supernal triads as a significator, meaning that these 3 beads are the biggies. And so let's look at the gold one. So we're just going to shuffle it around, and then we're going to see where the gold one lands, and the one underneath it is the suit. Right? Okay. So we're right here. And now, this is the actual wheel. That's not one of the suits, so don't worry about that. It's that little one next to it right there. And that's a pentacle. Okay? So that's going to be a princess. Or, in this case, for a small card, it's going to be a pentacle. Okay, so now we know the suit. So now we just have to pick the digit. This crazy lunatic on the internet made a binary calculator out of beads. That's right. And so here's how this works. There's 2 types of beads. There's a masculine bead and a feminine bead. These are the masculine beads, right? It's a black bead. Just a simple black ball. Okay, and then there's a simple white flower, right? They're very similar in size, very similar in weight, and one is male and one's female. The male, on. The female, off. Okay, very simple. Now, we also have some larger beads too. If your body wants to grab something a little bigger, you have fat fingers, whatever the case, you can go ahead and do this instead. So this is the female, which is the rounder one on the bottom, and it kind of tapers and is black and white with that beautiful kind of Art Deco-y vibe. And then the masculine one is just a pipe. It's just a straight pipe with a bead, right? With that green kind of angular. Okay. So if you pick the male, 1. If you pick the female, 0. Very simple. And now look how cute this is. Oh my gosh, I want to just give it a hug. Is that adorable? I love that. Okay. And now this is the counterpart to that. All right. It's masculine. It's a little yin-yang bead with some other stuff going on, some flowers and some other things. I like to meditate on this one. I see all kinds of people and stuff in there. That's a good one. Okay, so what you do is you just pick 2 beads. Oh, 4. Pick 4 beads, sorry. And I'm going to use the I Ching screen here because it has my binary calculator that I put together on this screen, and so it's just going to be here for us to utilize. Let me get rid of that. Pop on that. Okay, so... and where's my calculator? There we go. Very good. Great. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is grab 4 beads. We don't need 6, just 4. Let me turn off that other one. Because essentially, if they're all on, the answer is 15. So you can tell, you can make a 10 very easily, or any number 10 or under using 4 binary digits. And that's just the bottom line. And so, let's begin. Pull 1 bead. Female. It's a 0. Second one. Male. There's an on. Okay. So the second line, or the second number is an on. Okay. Female. Off. And the 4th and final digit. Female. Off. This is a 2 of Pentacles. Right? It's a 2. So if you wanted to pull a card, that was a 2 of Pentacles. Which, you know, if you've done your homework, you don't have to pull the card. If you want to show it to the querent, pull the card out. Right? So go through this. Let's just do it. Go through the steps. You can pull the card out and show it to them. But more importantly, just recognize that that's here. It's in here energetically and actually. There is a stone in this dish that represents that card. That's why I put 10 of each suit. Although it's not directly related that way, I wanted to avoid that. I have actually considered, believe it or not, over the years, and I've kind of done similar stuff of like writing on the marble 1, 2, 3, and it's just, that defeats the purpose. It's supposed to be intuitive, and it's designed to actually get you away from tarot in your head and let you see the archetypal language that it's speaking. That's the point. It's not about teaching you tarot. It's about teaching you the language that tarot uses. That's the same as I Ching. That's the same as truth, the Bible. And it'll unlock any magical system that uses that same methodology, because it is, in fact, a shared experience. Incidentally, you can also spell a word with these, because all of the letters of the alphabet are in here. And so you could essentially, each bead is a letter. You could do Gematria with it. And I mean that literally. You could take, let's do my initials, right? I mean, Mem is the Hanged Man. That would be water. So that would be one of the that would be one of the supernals, actually. So that doesn't even count. But it's so that would be crown. So it would be, this would be Mem. Ka, and then L. Kof. I don't remember. Kof. Kof is where is that diagram? Pardon me. The moon. The moon. Okay. So, the moon. Actually, that would be this. I mean, these are appropriate. That's funny. So far, Mikhail is becoming the Supernal Triads. All right, so then L. Now, L is AL. Aleph Lamed. Aleph, this is Aleph. No joke. Okay, and then Lamed would be... I can't think tonight. Thankfully, though. You know what Einstein once said? Never memorize what you can reference. Right? And so we are looking for... Lamed. Sorry. And where is my diagram? That's why I printed this sheet out. I should be using it. Here we go. Okay, sorry, pardon me. Okay, Justice. Justice is Lamed. Okay. All right, cool. So that's going to wind up being Owl's going to be a little more complicated than I thought. So instead of me trying to go through it with you here without there being prerequisite, I'm going to skip that. But basically what you do is you'd have these letters, and you could now easily apply the Gematria that would change the planets into a different set of these runes. And it would just follow the same rules that we're used to with the normal Timora of, in this particular case, the ALBM method. Like all owls would become Lament, all bets would become Mem, and so forth. And could apply it that way. So considering that any of the 7 planets, the 12 signs, or the 3 mother letters are the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet, and all 22 are present here, you could use them to spell words, or to do Gematria, or to do Timura. And it's an interesting kind of method of doing Timura, rather than putting the letters Michael and then going down the line and then changing letters. You're actually just moving stones. And it also gives you an idea of the energy from a graphical perspective, right? From a visual, color, frequency, shape, angle kind of perspective. And it's a very different way of looking into the system visually than looking at it mentally. Very often the tarot, and it's such a powerful tool, it's my favorite oracle other than I Ching, I guess. Of the old ones, this one's getting to be really cool. I mean, I haven't been able to keep my hands off of it. I can't stop using it. But it is effective in that. But the problem always is that there's some limitations with respect to that, because being able to look at the more archetypal, intuitive side all at once is a very different experience than that little bit at a time, bite-sized approach that is a little more rigid with respect to what it is you're looking at once you get into that vocabulary. It's kind of hard to get out of the thinking of, well, this means this planet, or this means this sign. No, it doesn't. It only means that if you choose that, it means that. Only if you're honoring that system for magical work, and in which case, do it and honor the absolute math of it. But if you're doing divination, ignore it all. Throw it out the window. You're the boss. What your heart speaks is what you're looking for. Because your heart speaks the voice of your divine mind. So that's what you want to listen to in divination. Why do you think it's called divination? Because it's divine. It's implied that it comes from a higher place. So yeah, it's just gorgeous though. I love looking at it. I love using it. I love the power of it. I'm really sorry that I wasn't in a place to be able to describe it and read it as effectively as I've been doing all day, and have done here in the past. I hope the binary system made sense. I mean, it's pretty basic. There's 2 types of bead in there. The darker feminine energy and the lighter masculine that apply the same logic as I Ching or as binary to pick a digit. 4 beads will give you any digit between 1 and 15, frankly, but you only need 1 to 10. And then pick any of these, and it'll give you the suit. Air. So we're looking at a sword. Pick 4 beads. 1 at a time is good so you don't get confused. Here's 1. That's a 0. 1. 1. So 0, 1, 1. So far we're on a 5. And a female. So this is 0, 1, 1, 0. Right, so let's jump in here. Okay. And so this is going to be the 6 of sword. Right? And that's how you do it. Oh, I threw that in there, and it didn't belong in there. It belongs in here. And that will definitely fall through the holes. That thing is tiny, that little flower, right? It might not, actually. I can't see anymore. I'm too tired. My eyes are actually not focusing. It's cool. I may look crazy to you people, and that's okay, because I am. But no, all kidding aside, you know, there's part of the work of this process as you're going through the insane, sort of lunatic dedication to the magical process when you start of strengthening your will. The ridiculous stuff that I've done to myself is so stupid. Holding your breath for as long as you possibly can to the point that you're almost passing out over and over and over again to build that wind, just, you know, you know, putting yourself in a position to not move and sitting there for literally hours to the point that your legs are numb for like 20 minutes after the fact, to find that center. It kind of allows you to let go of sort of everything. Like nothing bothers you anymore. And when it does, it's sort of no big, like you let go of it. There's a few moments here where I got really, really stressed over this skipping. And it really mattered for a minute. But being able to sort of just let go and center is important. And part of that work is absolute extreme, like, mind-breaking exhaustion for the purposes of being in a psychedelic state. There's no other way to get to that particular state. There's certain states of your consciousness that can only be achieved in certain ways. And if one of those states is that level of mental exhaustion to where your language faculty begins to meld together. And you may wind up even kind of spitting out some dyslexic behavior with respect to saying water when you meant fire, or saying left when you meant right. Where, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the idea that you're slowly thinning the veil. You know, I mean, I had mentioned yesterday and a few times the day before, or it was either yesterday or the day before, that an ego drunk on love has no voice, and that's true. But you know, you can even take the word love out of that. With the exception of actual alcohol, because when you're drunk on alcohol, the ego takes over. But an ego completely drunk on exhaustion has no voice. It's, you know, it just doesn't even, it has no power. Wow. Mm-hmm. There's a lot you can do. You know, it was the person who developed the algorithm for the moon phases, to predict the moon phases, did so in a dream. He woke up and remembered his dream because he figured it out while he was sleeping, which is very cool. And the same thing happened to me for a specific game. There's a certain game called Poison Apple with the 14 apples or 14 circles, and you cross out 2, 3, or 4. And whoever's left with the apple loses. And I don't know, the answer to unlocking that game to win every time came to me. Kind of like when you learn how to unlock tic-tac-toe. I learned how to unlock Poison Apple, and it just came to me in a dream. It was weird. It's a very strange algorithm called 4434. I'll teach it to you guys someday. Cool. Mm-hmm. 1 bourbon, 1 scotch. No beer. I'm going to do the right thing and not make another cup of coffee at 4 o'clock in the morning. Let's look at some other stuff here. So let me put this away. And we'll revisit this over time as well, because again, you know, it's important that I get out there the proper way to use this, and more importantly, they're not the proper way. That's a misnomer. The way that you can use it to use for astrology, for tarot, for I Ching, and all these other methods, I want to demonstrate them as much as I can, and be able to have a kind of a working tutorial available on the channel here for each instance. Here's how to do it for I Ching. Here's how to do it for it. And so this is not the thing I'm going to use to do that. If I watch this for the first time and this was my introduction to my channel and this oracle, I'd think, all right, it looks cute. It's pretty. And then I'd probably, you know. So, yeah. Now, these are just keeping the bottom loose because the goal of them is to do the calculation. And so to have another baggie or keep them confused in here would be bad. And so instead I have them loose in the bottom of this little box. So that they're just there when I need them and it's time to actually do the calculation. Okay. I just love that. Yeah, I know. Wow. Stop that. Okay, so I think I will separate them. Aren't we pretty? Yes, we are. Look at us. We're gorgeous. We're gorgeous. Look how pretty that is. Remember the last one we just looked at? How chaotic. Isn't it gorgeous? Yanis, I'll get right on that. No problem. Here is a subjective statement. Where is here? Is here the place that the voice is coming from, or is it the place where the brain thought the thought? Because this is here and that's there. Or is this here and that's there? Those are literally billions of micrometers apart from each other, or billions of angstroms. So at what point does that distance become significant statistically? Because ultimately we're all here because we're not all here. I'm certainly not all there. I don't know about you, but I'm certainly not. I need his witnesses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It takes 5 licks to get to the middle. No, okay. Let's do her wand. I'm not actually sure how much space I would need to be able to keep everything separate in one container. I wonder if I can get it all in here and then find a lid that would fit this. So it can be one unit that would include the baby, the mommy and daddy, the calculator, and the vessel. That could all fit in here, right? That would just be ideal. And a couple of doilies. One to cover one maybe, or like if you're going to put this on somebody's table, you can put the doily down first and not scratch up their table. Sword. Okay. And did you mean the 21st from the top? You'd probably be frustrated with me because of the type where I need something to be shown to me more than once. Usually I need the example we explained from my brain to register the process of what I'm... Sure. No, that would not frustrate me. I live for that. It just frustrates me when it's like I'm trying to visually show something and my words are literally 15 seconds behind the image or ahead of it. That I can't function. But no, I will explain the same thing 14 ways and be happy to do it. Because I recognize that not only are there different learners and different languages, but different parts of you will ring to the information in different ways. And so I have to speak to your mind, your body, your soul, your heart. And then the information becomes literally integrated. Until then, it's sort of like up in the air, back and forth. And so, cup. Isn't that pretty? She's singing. Alrighty. See how it's not as pretty when it's all even? And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What? I've lost my pentacle. I did hear something hit the ground before. Let me just check something. Never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. Alright, I just saw the words peanut and chocolate. M&M's, awesome. M&M's would work. M&M's would work. Now, you would need to use regular M&M's, and then you would need to use peanut M&M's for the bigger part, right? And so let's just shuffle these so that they look like they're supposed to, because they're too even, and reality is not even. Okay. Land on the pentacle. Physically manifest. Okay. Great. Okay, so now they're correct. And I never was sure if I liked peanut butter M&Ms better than Reese's Pieces, or if Reese's Pieces were just it, and why go to peanut butter M&Ms. But they're different. They're not exactly the same, and I'm not exactly 100% sure which one I like better. I wonder what you guys. But peanut M&Ms are everything. I can eat peanut M&Ms, constantly. And I typically have the patience to suck my way down to the peanut through about 3/4 of the bag before I start laying in. I can actually make it 3/4 of the way through a bag of peanut M&Ms, sucking down to the peanut before I actually say, forget this, and just... Yeah. All right, so yeah, there it is. I love that. Come on, isn't that great? What a genius. And this actually, Yanis, if you can imagine, this is M&M's, same thing. I just did erasers with a pencil as the significator. And so the pencil points to, like right now it's pointing to Earth, right? You know, right now it's pointing to fire, right? And so on. And so you can kind of let it tell you where to look. And it's a good way to teach kids, very basic, just the 4 elements with a significator. It's nothing crazy like these with all this nonsense. It's just very basic, and it teaches them the idea of the elements, the interplay, the idea of how that changes, the difference between speaking and listening. It's a really, really good tool for developing that, right? All right. Let me put this up then. And ultimately, it's going to all be put together in like a nice kit with instructions and a link to a video of me explaining when I'm awake and can think straight, how to use it in all the myriad of ways. Each video is going to be one of the ways to read it, because there's so many. I mean, you can read it so many different ways. My favorite way to read it is intuitively. And just to clarify again, to spoil, this right here is the same thing we looked at. This is the completed version of an entire new 3-part oracle. It's all here. Every piece is there. And just to kind of be silly about it, I put it all together in one, and I'm going to separate it for you guys in the next couple of days. Beautiful. It has a bunch of wings. It has a bunch of stars. Some really cool kind of like gemmy sort of beads. Right? These sort of gemmy beads are really neat. I love these. Some Dr. Mario going on. Really, really pretty red. A lot of metal. A lot of metal in this one. This one this is a speaking oracle. This oracle is meant to talk. Look at all the metal that's in here. That's a goodie, right? Very different than this one, which is speak to me in divine feminine, speak to me in divine masculine. Put those together and manifest. It's a magical tool for creating manifest change. Or speaking to divine masculine and feminine separately, right? Or the ritual reenactment of their love to create. This is different. This has nothing to do with either of those. This is a very unique and interesting oracle that has a certain thing, which is to speak a certain thing, and that is declared during the process of the mixing. So it's really cool. Look at this one. Love that. It's like a little mini disco ball. Right. Good. There's a couple in here. I've got several. Love that. Eight is the number of the Merkaba. Definitely a 5 and a 10-fold symmetry. Maybe some Venus energy going on right here with the 5 5s. 5 5s is God -1, right? The name of God is 26. You know, the Yud He Vav He, and so 5 5s -1 equals or +1 equals God. It's you know, it's sniffing like a lot of maybe this. Yeah, it smells like Tree of Life. I don't know. This might be something very interesting related to something that has nothing to do with tarot. Who are you kidding? Tarot is everything. So there it is, right? It's just very pretty. And I like the green glass. That was an accident. I needed some glass. And I was looking around a bunch of stuff, and I couldn't find anything. And so my roommate comes up to me. She's so weird, because she hates what I do. She's always like, evil. Meanwhile, she's like, hey, do you need this dish? It worked out, too. The way that it plays off of the red. I was a little concerned it was going to be kind of Christmassy. Not at all. I could see this being around all year. It's just that kind of like hidden treasure vibe. And speaking of hidden treasure, let's look at, excuse me, I'm sorry guys, hang on a minute. You know what? I'm actually going to take my break now. I'll be right back. I don't know. I can't hold my concentration today. I can't just, I don't know. It's one of those nights where it's sort of like the perfect storm of me just, it's one battle after another. And so it just seems to be a constant fight rather than a flow. And so that's okay because that's reality. And so I'm just going to keep chugging through and call it a stream. And some are beautiful and polished and perfect, and some not so hot. And I'm having a bad hair day. So I'm okay with it if you are. But what I wanted to do is just look at this beautiful myriad of, like, look at this. It's beautiful. Look at the possibility here. This is just a big pile of possibility, and that's what we're talking about. You know, we can shuffle cards, we can look up at the stars, we can, you know, listen to a song and really dig deep into what those words mean. You know, we can take a look at somebody's artwork that was gracious and brave enough to share it with strangers and put it out there for everyone to see. And that's why we're here. We're here to inspire each other. We're here to be inspired. Look at this beautiful thing I found today digging through my stuff. This is a little pendant. It actually folds up. It's a folding fan with a dragon on it. It's just beautiful. And a tree. It's gorgeous with that rose. Is that something? There's 14 sermons in this one symbol, right? And that's the beauty of this box. Right? The beauty of this box is the beautiful myriad of possibility. And if we just allow ourselves to be open to that story, it's always being told in many, many different ways. It's the only story that's ever being told. Let's look at some other things I bumped into today. Love that. This is waiting. I considered like putting the scarab on there because my scarab right now, his wings are closed, right? He's not in a state of flying. He's in a state of staying. Right, but that'd be an interesting kind of, I've considered that, right? There's some ideas. I don't know, I have some ideas. Yeah, okay. Those are going to go down because that's where they want to go. And so that's a very interesting little pin that can clip onto a shirt. Right? And if you see how the clip is, it's meant to not damage the shirt, right? So this was clearly designed for somebody who knew what they were doing to be worn as a piece, to not damage a piece of clothing. It's a nice little fourfold symmetry. I did put an arrowhead. I considered it and I thought about it and I threw it in there. This is really neat because it's the double helix, four-way, and there's two of them, right? And so they happen to spin nicely together, so that you can kind of just like make a little as above, so below, as below, so above. You can make a cross, or just the idea of the Kundalini spinning into each other, right? It's just like it's an idea of the Kundalini, and the fact that it can be addressed in multiple different ways. Right? This is great. This beautiful energy right there, right? Isn't that gorgeous? I believe it's Catherine. I believe this is Saint Catherine. Look at this little thing. How cute is that? This is waiting to be personified as something. This wants to be given a personality. Wouldn't you agree? And I'm just curious. There's something that wants to be on there, though. Like there's some things that need to be dangled off, maybe, or added to it in order to give it a little bit of extra. It's calling for something, and I'm not sure what it is. But this piece needs to be made into a magical talisman of some kind, or an amulet of some kind. It's begging for it, you know. Just beautiful. I don't see anything else new I put in here today. I thought this was interesting. I haven't looked at it long enough to really read it, but there is the idea of like surrounded in a bunch of purple, and we know what purple is. And then those 3 green on either side with those 4 wheels. So there's this idea of 3, 4, and then that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16. So 2 8s. Really, it's quite beautiful, the symmetry in it. But I haven't really thought about it too much. It initially gives me the vibe of sort of like the Wheel of Fortune. I thought this was a pretty little thing waiting to happen somewhere. See that? The energy of it is very interesting. That color I can't describe. It's sort of like a brownish green, almost like a smoky quartz, but with a green vibe. Very, very strange. I'm not 100% sure what it is because of the color. You know what it might wind up being is an impure amethyst. I've seen this before, like a brownish amethyst, and it's quite lovely because it just means it's been through some stuff, that's all. This is interesting too, and I'm not 100% sure what it is. It's a button. Right, you see the back? It's a button, and on the front it looks like a crown with either side of some type of book, and there's some writing on it. And there's those 2 leaves of that book on there, and then some pattern on the bottom. And I'm not 100% sure what it is. I have yet to identify it. And when I do, I'll share what I find. Yeah, I can't tell what the symbol is on that book. It's too hard to say. And there's no words on it. It's sort of implied, but there's no actual words. And so I'm sure that's a symbol of some organization or some brand. Who knows? I haven't figured it out yet. The finding will be fun. It's going to be fun to go through that process there. Very neat stuff. But that's it. Yeah, I added a few things to it today. This little shoe. I thought this was interesting. It's just like a little baby shoe. It's cute. Not sure why, but I was inspired to put it in there. This one is cute. It was then that I carried you. You know, it's the footprints in the sand. We all know that poem. We've all been there once or twice. Love this piece. Love, love, love this. It's like a wing made out of blue and red. You know, I don't know what it used to be a part of. Right? It was a part of something. But this is what it is now. And I love that. It almost looks like it's a pair of eyes waiting for a face. You get the idea. Okay. It is a pretty moon charm. Yeah, let me pull that one out again because it is. The coloring on it is very interesting too. Where did I drop it? See the enameling is really interesting, isn't it? It has an old vibe. It's like a 70s kind of color with the greens and the yellows and the oranges. And it has like a tarnished silver. I don't believe it's silver though. We'll see. This is an earth magnet right here. This closes with an earth magnet. Okay, so yeah, it's stuck to that magnet. Right. It's a good way to test jewelry, right? Does it stick? But yeah, this is definitely, you know. So you get the idea. I added a bunch of little things in here. And so what we can do is just kind of grab one at random and see. Let's see what you have to say. Do you have anything to say to us tonight? I was using this today, actually. It was a nice energy kind of playing with it last night. And so I thought I would listen to it again today. And I always got good feelings when I put it on my ear. It's just designed to, you listen to it and it speaks to your heart. And so you can feel it in your heart when it talks. And it speaks honest. I had some very good vibes from it today. It's had a lot of good things to say. There's good energy going on. And so it's, no matter what you're feeling, we're on an upswing. And so just look out for that. This is a clip-on earring, it looks like. Turns out screw-ons are too hard for me. I'll just stick with the clip-ons. I watched it a couple times today. It's funny. A little feather. So let's just give it a shot. Let's just shake it up and grab something. What do we got here? Half a heart. Half of a heart. Interestingly, I don't own the other half. Gabrielle, how's it going? Yeah, I'm not sure if that's coral. Perhaps. It's a bit orange. It might be carnelian. Let me look. It's a bit orange. It's not even red. The turquoise might be fake. Let's see. Is this silver? Yes. Well, it's not magnetic. So it might not be silver, but it's not magnetic. That has gold in it. I don't know if that's fake either. Almost like a lapis. Like a lapis lazuli. See the gold fleck in the blue? All right. But that's not a lapis blue. But there is gold fleck in it. So I'm not sure if that's coral. Typically the coral to me is a little bit more on the pinkish side if it's orange. But it might be. If there's any crystal experts in the room and you get a vibe off that, let me know what you think that is. This one here. Yeah, he's only got half a heart. Poor bastard. Okay. Yeah, and I don't actually own the other half. I'm not sure if the other half is the same color or if it's like black with white in it to kind of be an offset. But yeah. And of course, it doesn't take you long to be on my channel to know and learn what half a heart means with respect to this channel. Because what half a heart means with respect to this channel is that that's the state that we're always in until we find our other. And once we do, we're in a position to complete that heart. Because that's what we are. It's like we're born waiting. We're born wanting. We're born incomplete. But only from our perspective here in the higher world. We found each other a long time ago, and we've been dancing our dance since the beginning. I really wish it were that easy to remember all the time. I mean, I spend my days in a state of remembering. Most of the time, I'm okay, and I know, and I remember, and it's a good feeling. But every once in a while, I need to do a little bit of remembering. And then it gets a bit frustrating. It's like frustration, anxiety, all this, and it's like, oh yeah, wait a minute. Peace. You just got to get to that place. That's all. Just allow yourself to have that peace. That's why we're here. It is literally the reason we exist. To come to the peace of the knowing that we are never alone. And that the thing that we're surrounded by is complete, utter, absolute, universal love. Hard to beat that. I'm going to leave this out. I think I'm going to do a little talking tonight when I leave the stream. Okay. I have the most amazing sense of calm right now. Wow. I just want to take it in. It's been an exhausting couple of days, and in such a good way that I feel calm and at peace. I really, although I didn't get to present it in the way that I wanted, I know that it's done, and it's a good feeling. And I know that in the next several whatever hours, days, whatever it happens to be, that I'll be in a position to get this out correctly. And it'll touch the right people that are going to want to be motivated to go out and make one. And that's all I want you to do. I want you to make one. And if you're not feeling inspired, let me inspire you and let me make one for you. And we'll get it out to you. And we'll set a time that we can sit down and talk in the middle of the day, as opposed to 4 o'clock in the morning, and go over how to use it and how to ask it and how to answer. And help to build our intuition, help to build our knowing of this universe, and recognize that this story is the same as that. Right? And it's up to us to see it, because it's there for us to see. It's up to us to hear it, because it's there for us to listen. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to each other. Pretty. What a weird stream. Very strange. This is the first time in a long time I stayed out of the chat, which is weird. And probably because I felt like I wasn't in a position, like I wasn't mentally capable of paying attention to both. And so I apologize for kind of staying out of the stream tonight, or out of the chat. If anyone jumped in and needed anything answered, or I apologize that I didn't see that. Shoot me an email or even comment on the video with a question, and I'm like happy to get to it. I do that. I answer them in there. So I'm just going to enjoy this moment of peace and spend some time just chilling right now and kind of reading the chat and relaxing a little bit before I sign off. Let me just look through my notes. I don't think I actually had time for any notes today. I might have written one or two things down, but I don't think I did. It's been a little busy with the holiday and stuff, and getting stuff done here and kind of decorating. One batch of kids showed up at my house. You know why that's cool? Candy. All right, I did have a couple of notes about the kind of readings I wanted to cover. The deacon reading, the court card reading, the major reading, the small cards, the houses, the signs, the planets, the I Ching, the Kabbalah. Okay, all right. So yeah, I kind of covered a lot of those. The Kabbalah is going to take a little bit more because it's sort of like a little bit in here, and in this, I planned on going over it tonight, but it got hung up to the point where it would have been too long. But it's just the way to kind of scry the tree and look at the difference between the different Sephiroth and the paths and how those paths are different. There's many ways to get from 10 to 1. The best is just to go straight up the middle, but that's not always easy, so you got to bounce around, right? And as you go through those paths, those different stops make a big difference on your expectation of that environment and what you can expect to gain from it. And so that's interesting. Yeah. All right, so I covered most of that. And the signs is pretty clear. I mean, you're looking at a round space, and so just consider that round space with respect to the, looking at an astrological house chart, starting from 1, and then work your way around, and just read the beads that are in front of you. There's going to be certain planetary influences, elemental influences, and so forth, signs, and you become familiar with it as we work with this on which beads are which. It's very easy to remember once that color's in your head, right? That Venus is a certain color, or Mars is a certain color. And as you develop that vocabulary, you can apply it to other things. So once you've used the beads for a while, you can now look up and see Mars in the red in the room. You can see Venus in the colors and how those two come together. And how does that play? The color of Mercury when applied to Saturn, which are two very sort of opposite energies of this gregarious, outgoing sharing of knowledge, and then the hidden wisdom of Saturn. One is very huge and dark, and one is very small and bright, and that dichotomy, right? And so you begin to see those different ideas in your environment once you know this language. And so you learn it from cards, you can learn it from beads, runes, but ultimately, the language you're speaking of is only two possible things, which is speaking and listening. That's all that exists. Everything in existence is a play of those elements. So that said, any way that we can to sharpen up that vocabulary to allow us access is critical to our growth. And if we ignore that, then we kind of stay where we are. And if we give into that, it gives us access to everything. It lets us read any book and understand what we're reading. It allows us to approach a new subject and to see the perspective that maybe even a master in that subject hadn't considered, because they're coming from it from a perspective of the art itself. You're coming from it from the perspective of the archetypes that allow that art to exist to begin with. And so you speak the language of the art before the art was even born. That's why we have access. The fact is we know how the story ends. We know how the pieces fit. We tell it as it unfolds. And so when we get to the final reading, with that final iteration of these two put together as one unified being, what we're actually looking at is our story told, and so we easily see it in there. Now, you guys see a pile of beads and shapes, but I see a very specific story here with related to the ascent, the descent, the speaking, the listening, the lament, the rejection, all of it. It's all here. This is the entire story of the crafting of the key in beads. Love it. And so that said, the more ways that we keep ourselves open to this language, the more ways that we're going to hear the truth. And it's being spoken right now. So pick one. You can listen with your mind, which you've been doing all night. You can listen with your heart, which is what you should be doing all night. You can listen with your body, or you can listen with your soul. And if you're lucky and you are able to combine those things and listen to them all at the same time, the only thing you can hear is the truth, no matter what is being spoken. The only thing you can see is the truth, no matter what's being cast. That seems pretty special to me. And if that's true, and I promise you it is, then it sounds like the only thing that should matter in this world. So, that said, I'm going to hopefully quickly drift into unconsciousness and stay that way for as long as possible. 4 lifetimes sounds about right, but I'll take 6 hours. Which, if I, let's be honest with myself, I'll be asleep by 6:30 or 7 a.m. That's not going to happen. Okay, so 3. I'm getting 3. But 3 I can do. You know, that's kind of my minimum. 3 hours I can actually function and do math if I needed to and not go broke giving the delivery driver $17. But you get the idea, right? So I appreciate everybody. I appreciate everybody watching me go through this ridiculous period of time where I have this creative explosion and it's the only singular thing in my life to the point that I'm not eating, sleeping, breathing until it's done. Well, it's done. Feels good. It feels good. Alright, well, what are we going to do to end the evening? Until I hit that button and sign off, it's still Halloween. Let me see what hit the floor. I just heard something fall. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you so much for everything. It's been a wonderful evening. It's been a pleasure. It's been. All kidding aside, thank you. I die daily. I'm a different person every day, and today I was just a little thin. Weird. Because I had an amazing day. I had a couple of client sessions that went great. Like, they were really great. I had some stuff going on later. Later, I had a conversation with somebody that I'm very good friends with, and she's going through some nonsense and feeling kind of in a weird place and stuff. And we had a great conversation, and it landed at a good place that I can't wait to talk to her about and make sure it went good. And so it was a great day. Like, I mean, good energy across the board. So, and it feels good to know that this is done. But that said, you know, I put myself out there thinking I was going to be in an okay place, and I wanted to stream tonight and really show this to everybody. And it was, so thank you for the ramblings of me, you know, attempting that. And I would say I probably succeeded about 40% of what I wanted to. And I love you all for not caring. And that means a lot. It really does. And so, thank you for that. And, in the meantime, I love this. Is a great wig, man. This is great. It's a good one. Let's end the evening with something special. What can I do? What can I read or grab or let's just grab a pearl of wisdom randomly from something here. Let's see. We have Eckhart Tolle, Practicing the Power of Now. We have A Midsummer Night's Dream with commentary. To Be a Friend, The Tao of Physics, Dante's Inferno. You know what I think is a good one? Today's Upper Room. This is the way. This is a great way to start November. Okay, here's today's Upper Room for November 1st. Hebrews 12, verse 1. Since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witness, let us throw off everything that hinders. Just yesterday, somebody was saying something about that. I think, who was it? There was somebody here last night. I think it was Yanira. She comes in as yes. And she had said something along the lines of, I want to push myself forward. How can I push myself forward? And my basic answer was, is you can't rush art. right? Like, the thing that you're going to become is so beautiful and holy, and you can't, like, don't worry about rushing that. And then she said something along the lines of, I forget, but it came to the terms of every single particle in the universe is watching you at every moment. Like, there is no privacy from that respect. So get over looking good in front of people, because every mistake you've ever made has been witnessed, right? And so since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders. Have the courage and freedom to be who you are, recognizing that it doesn't matter. You're being seen now anyway. And so don't let your actions be based on what you think people will think. And instead just let go of everything that is not you and put that out. Because the fact is that you've been watched since the beginning, and you're not fooling anyone. So you might as well be authentic, right? And get rid of everything in your life that hinders you from doing that. If there's a person in your life that is responsible for your feelings and they're stopping you from expressing yourself, you have to consider that, because you're the one who needs to be expressed and it's not. That's a problem. If there's a part of you that will not allow yourself to have the joy that you know you deserve, you need to consider that. And you need to shut it down at all costs, because that's what we're here for. We were designed and built and polished and then redesigned and rebuilt and repolished until they got it right for one purpose, which is to avoid suffering and to receive the pleasure of the world and to share that. And if we're doing anything outside of those things, then we're failing. Mm-hmm. So let's see. I don't know. I think I'm just going to take that cue and realize that I can't think straight any longer. And I'm going to go. I felt good to spend that creative energy. And so I'm totally happy and content with the way this came out. And I have no gripes with respect to this process here. It was a little weird, but I'll take it. So this is basically the Oracle complete. We have the boy and the girl, the mommy and the daddy, the baby's in the box, and then we have this is just like another training tool that tells the entire story of everything we're talking about in its most basic form, in a way that can be held in your hand and used. And isn't it lovely? It's just beautiful. So just thanks everyone that came in here and was patient with me tonight as I went through my nonsense. And I'm going to be rested and ready for tomorrow, because I'm so excited to get into this and to read this and use it, and just kind of have it off to the side, and then just when someone asks for a reading, pull it out and just go from there. That's the point. Okay? Thank you, Tenamara, for that. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for everyone that came in tonight, and have a great night. I will see you guys tomorrow. I'm trying to kind of maybe push it up to be a little earlier, about an hour earlier. I don't want to guarantee that, but it might happen. Otherwise, thank you so much. And incidentally, to the people who are here, would you be okay with me coming on an hour earlier? Or does the timing that I'm doing right now work? Because what I'm doing right now is working, and there's a lot of reasons that I chose that timing, but I would be able to maybe squeeze in a little earlier. So if I could, would you be open to that? Let me know. And if so, then I might consider doing that, okay? Otherwise, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, kitten. And have a great night. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'd like to think that it didn't happen, but it did. So let's just own it and realize that it doesn't matter. We all know that I love you. We all know that you love me. And we all know that it doesn't matter. It's just a bunch of rocks. Good night.